Chapter 171. Deadwater Swamp, the outer forest area. The sparring was over. Under Han Dong's suggestion, the two temporarily left the witch school by boat, because the following conversation was likely to involve important privacy issues between each other. After walking along the floating planks for a while, they climbed up the twisted trees and arrived at Mia's treehouse number 89. Compared to the witch's house, Mia's treehouse was very simple. A large number of witchcraft casting tools were piled up in the corner. There was a wooden table, a mirror, a wooden stool, and a hammock hanging by the window. "Sit." Mia deliberately handed the only wooden stool to Han Dong. "It's good to stand." Along the way, the two of them didn't have any unnecessary conversation, leaving all the private conversations here. "Oh, then wait for me." Mia stared with her expressionless eyes and found a white candle made with cuttlefish oil in the corner of the material area. "Hiss." Mia spat out a large amount of spider silk from her mouth and covered the walls of the treehouse with the white candle as the eye of the formation. As the candle was lit, the spider silk overflowed with a purple-black luster, forming a unique ceiling enchantment. This completely isolated the treehouse from the outside world. "Okay, hurry up and tell me, when did you notice it?" "The first time I saw you, I had a faint sense of dissonance." Mia looked surprised and widened her expressionless eyes. She deliberately leaned closer and whispered, "The first time, when you were choosing a mentor. Well, when you distributed herbs to the injured students, your smile and behavior were disguised very well and relatively coordinated. Unfortunately, your eyes didn't match well. At least in my opinion, it always felt strange and not particularly natural. In addition, I accidentally saw you in the Adventurers Guild Hall. As soon as you entered the school, you formed a team with others and began to complete some reward missions. Your eyes, when you formed a team with other adventurers, were completely different from when you distributed herbs. You didn't look like a newcomer at all. You also bumped into me in the Adventurers Guild. We're really fated." Mia hugged Han Dong's arm and even took the initiative to rub her face on his arm, trying to act coquettishly. Only when a green aura that symbolized the plague seeped out of her arm did she let go. Mia was not angry at all. She continued to ask what else. What exactly went wrong with the series of interactions in the swamp area? "I feel that other than being a little clingy, my overall performance is pretty good." Being clingy is one thing. The main problem lies in the witch's house. After hearing the strange sound, you pretended to be an ignorant girl and blushed nervously. Upon hearing this, Mia interrupted Han Dong excitedly. "Ah, shouldn't that be the case? Could it be that he should be more proactive? Using this kind of atmosphere to slowly push you down?" "No," Han Dong shook his finger. "Your acting of blushing and being nervous was pretty good. There weren't any problems. It's just that your subsequent actions were too deliberate. When I saw how he pretended to be nervous and got up to deliberately knock off his mask, I felt like laughing. First of all, the mask is an important tool for sealing the curse. Isn't it a little inappropriate for it to be knocked off? Also, your panicked expression after the mask was knocked off was too fake. You need to practice more in the future to make everything seem more logical and natural." "Is that so? But I had to find a chance to take off my mask and expose the curse in order to arouse your interest. Only then would I have a way to get closer to you, and only then would I be able to find out your secret." Han Dong replied with a cold expression. "There are many ways to indirectly expose the curse, but you just had to choose an inappropriate method. However, your deliberate act of exposing yourself made me somewhat interested in your true identity. Only then did I agree to spar with you. Through close contact, I was able to determine your true nature." "Ah, you even discovered my true nature. What am I?" Mia had an expression of surprise. "You pretended to be a pitiful person who lost a loved one due to the curse and carried the curse to embark on the knight's journey. In essence, you should have a direct connection with this curse, right? Your so-called painful past was most likely caused by you. Not only did you not feel any guilt, you even enjoyed it, using it as a special tool to arouse the sympathy of others. As for the source of the curse, it should be outside the city. Disguise. You even attempted to create a second personality to perfectly control the image of Mia Seminovich as a model student. You wanted to graduate from the Night Academy with top grades and excellent character and blend into the upper echelons of the Night Order. That's all I can deduce at the moment. After hearing all this, Mia revealed a satisfied smile and couldn't help but sigh. Wow. At first, I thought that you relied on this mutated demon I to make a living. I didn't expect that the most powerful part was your brain. When I first saw you, I smelled something that was homologous but strange. I thought that we could become good friends, but I didn't expect you to be so cold. At this point, Mia suddenly hugged Han Dong from the front. Her lips gently rubbed against Han Dong's ear as she whispered, "Shall I give you one more chance? As long as you're willing to be with me, I can satisfy any request you have in life." In terms of appearance and figure, Mia was definitely one of the best among her peers. Furthermore, she had a unique charm in her bones. However, Han Dong wasn't interested. In addition, Han Dong didn't want to get into unnecessary trouble. In his eyes, Mia was a troublesome woman. Han Dong gently pushed Mia away and walked towards the door of the treehouse. "Please tell Teacher Chirona and the Great Plague Warden that I'm not feeling well and will be going back to rest. In addition, please remember my only request for you after you in the spar. Don't pester me." The moment he said that, Han Dong could feel a strong killing intent coming from behind him. There were even a large number of poisonous spiders crawling out from the cracks of the wooden boards of the treehouse. However, Han Dong didn't turn around because Mia didn't dare and couldn't kill him. After a while, the killing intent disappeared. Mia asked the last question that she tried to persuade him to stay when they parted. "You also have a secret that you can't let others know. Aren't you afraid that I'll report you?" "As you wish." Han Dong pushed the door open, waved his hand with his back, and quickly left the treehouse. Mia was left alone in the treehouse. She grinned and took off the mask that was used to seal her. A long purple-black tongue stretched out from her mouth and licked her face. "Nicholas, you're the most interesting student of the same level that I've ever seen. The group of stupid trainee knights in the Adventurers Guild can't be compared to you. Let me stop pestering you. It's not easy for me to meet someone of the same kind. How can I give up just like that? The more you dislike others, the more they want you. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to participating in the night training outside the city with you. At that time, we should encounter a very dangerous situation. Once we get separated from the main group, we can have a world of just the two of us. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it." Just thinking about it made Mia tremble crazily. Her hands and feet began to twitch unconsciously. Chapter 172. Han Dong left the witch's swamp on the way. Although the witch wanted the two of them to stay, she had other intentions. She wanted the two of them to speed up their relationship. Since Han Dong won the competition, the witch was not in a good mood. Han Dong's departure was the best choice. Also, Han Dong estimated that it would be difficult to swallow the so-called witch's banquet. After leaving the swamp area, Han Dong was ready to return to the student dormitory. He wanted to have a good rest in the 3 days before the night training preliminaries began. Moreover, Miss Chun Li's cultivation of evil rituals seemed to have made some progress recently. Han Dong had to be on guard during this critical period. If Chun Li could grow, it would indirectly increase Han Dong's overall strength. Although Toga's overall combat strength was stronger than Chun Li's, and there was even a unique mark behind his name. But Han Dong still liked Chun Li more. She didn't like him emotionally. Instead, it was because Chun Li had willingly followed Han Dong and accepted his shelter. Therefore, she still retained some of her special feelings and human consciousness. At all critical moments, Chun Li could provide more direct help. Just as the caretaker of the graveyard brought over a carrion horse for Han Dong, a familiar voice rang out. "How did it go?" Han Dong immediately looked at the tombstone on the other side. There was a crow standing on it. "I got the answer I wanted." "That's good. It's up to you to decide whether you want to pursue a minor. I'll look forward to your performance in the night training." "Okay, I'll do my best. By the way, did anything interesting happen on your way to the swamp?" When Mr. Black and White asked this question, it was as if he had foreseen something in advance. Nothing. Caw, caw, caw. Mr. Black and White's connection with the crow was cut off. The crow flapped its wings and flew away. Whether or not Mr. Black and White had foreseen the matter regarding Mia Simonovich, Han Dong still thought it was better not to talk about it. Night training. Its full name is National Royal Night Academy, Elite Training. The National Royal Night Academy's teaching system was similar to the university Han Dong had attended when he was still alive. They used a semester system. 4 months was a semester, and 2 semesters were a school year. There were similar winter holidays and summer holidays. However, the apprentice knights couldn't relax during the holidays. The upcoming summer vacation corresponded to the night training. Apprentice knights who were not selected for the training would have to complete enough bounty missions or meet certain academic requirements during their vacation according to the requirements of the academy and their mentors. If they failed to meet the standards, they might face the possibility of being expelled. There's one more thing that needs to be emphasized here. Before the seed of destiny sprouted, the amount of destiny points invested was not directly related to one's strength. As mentioned earlier, the investment of destiny points would only increase the upper limit of one's energy before a qualitative change was achieved. This allowed the individual to use their abilities for a long period of time or multiple times. An individual's strength was largely dependent on the subsequent learning of a knowledge system, actual combat practice, and one's own talent. National Royal Knight Academy, Elite Training, it was open to all apprentice knights who were at the seed stage. It was equivalent to a screening mechanism for elites. Apprentice knights who were only allocated 1 destiny point, or those who were allocated 5 destiny points, but had yet to experience the seed breaking could all participate. During the training period, students who performed outstandingly or were special would receive the attention of the higher-ups. Moreover, the training was of great significance to the apprentice knights. Through the internal special method of the training, the potential of the apprentice knights would be drawn out and their individual strength would be improved in all aspects. Crusader, Cass Maldini. He was able to cooperate with the clown in The Clown's Resurrection and fight against Purgatory Monk, Togu, who was at his peak state. It was during the previous training that he obtained the improvement of his physical strength and combat skills. Due to the excellent evaluation in the previous training and the fact that Cass had successfully cleared the 4-star difficulty, The Clown's Resurrection, Part 1, he was given a second chance to participate in the training. Every training would be fully handled by one of the 13 Knight Legions. They would head to a secret base outside the city walls to conduct the training, due to the temporary establishment of the base. Therefore, the location and content of each training would be different. No one knew what kind of danger they would face during the training period. Faceless Head, Portable Prison. There were only 2 cells and a narrow corridor, and a large amount of black gas surrounded the small space. Han Dong had planned to take advantage of the 3 days to have a good rest. Who knew that he would enter the prison as soon as he returned to the dormitory to assist Miss Chun-Li in her evil refining. After all, only Han Dong could truly control the iBook. This refining process lasted for 2 days and 2 nights. During this period, there were many out-of-control situations. Even Togu, who was in the next room, came to help and bound Chun-Li with iron chains. During this period, the poor Togu was slashed by a kitchen knife several times. The heaviest slash left a black mark on the surface of Togu's bald head and almost broke his copper skin and iron bones. However, Togu, who was hit by this kind of attack, had a face full of honeyed happiness. It seemed that this kind of pain that could hurt his body brought him spiritual pleasure. Evil chi converged. A unique evil bead condensed and formed in Chun-Li's abdomen. Black hair fluttered, red eyes flashed. Her limbs also became more slender and slender. Chun-Li grew. This scene swept away Han Dong's tiredness, and a smile appeared on his face. Detected that Chun-Li, the possessed, evil refining has grown. The relevant containment information has changed. Containment method. Perfect containment. Type. Evil cultivator. After the evil transformation has succeeded in evil refining and condensed an evil pill in the body, they have become a true evil refining cultivator in the true sense. Combat rating. DD, D, advancement path. Absorb and refine the evil chi in other life forms. Has changed ability. 1. Evil body. The appearance will change, causing the body to break away from the human category to a certain extent, increasing the attribute value. 2. Kitchen knife. The original weapon, according to different combat situations. The shape of the weapon can be changed through the evil chi. Black hair floated in the air. However, Chun-Li's pupils gradually returned to their original state, staring straight at Han Dong, who had stayed here to accompany her for 2 days and 2 nights, with dark circles under his eyes. Togu released the chains. Clang at the moment when the chains were undone. Yi Zichen's expression changed. Chun-Li, with her black hair fluttering, quickly pounced on Han Dong. However, she did not hurt him, nor did any dangerous situation occur. Chun-Li spread out her slender arms and hugged Han Dong. Her red lips brushed against his earlobe, and she whispered in Han Dong's ear, "Thank you for always being with me, Mr. Han Dong." Chapter 173. National Royal Knight Academy. It was unanimously approved by the Parliament. In the name of the royal family, the Supreme Church, and the 13 Knights, it was jointly built to be the highest academy in the Holy City. According to the Fate profession, it was divided into 5 major departments. It was to standardize the training and management of the returnees, correct the heart of a knight. Through the guidance of the knight mentors, the returnees were able to learn the most suitable combat skills or spells for themselves. At the same time, they would also be taught some experiential skills when facing the various monsters in the Fate realm. It would greatly increase their survival rate in the Fate realm, increase the selection rate of official knights, and continue to expand the Knight Order. In addition, there was also an Adventurers Guild in the Academy. At the same time, there were church and knight intelligence stations all over the city. They formed a communication relationship with the Adventurers Guild to collect, detect, and systematize the dangerous events in the Holy City and designate them as bounty missions. Through the mentor's suggestions, the Academy's enforcement, and even rewards, the apprentice knights were encouraged to actively accept bounty missions and deal with some small and medium-scale pollution events in the city. Come into contact with pollution in advance. Learn in advance how to deal with the polluted life, how to carry out the purification and pressure of the pollution. Although the pollution events in the city could not be compared to the dangers outside the city, but understanding the pollution in advance was still very beneficial. Regarding the National Royal Knight Academy as curriculum and school year division, due to the Fate Realm's cooldown time limit, 1 year cooldown time, only 1 Fate point reward could be obtained at a Fate event. The Apprentice Knight's education was a 4-year system. The first year was also referred to as freshman. You need to meet the following 3 requirements in the first year to be able to enter the next year. 1. Clear the Fate Realm once, that is 2 Fate points. 2. Deal with at least 5 bounty missions, or be selected and complete 1 night training. 3. Meet all the learning targets at the end of the year, including the test of Heart of a Knight. There were no other mandatory requirements in the second year, but you need to clear the Fate Realm at least once. The third year was referred to as Junior. The requirements for this year were quite high. Moreover, many apprentice knights needed to delay their third year. Usually, the delay was half a year or at most 2 years. In the third year, you need to meet the following 4 requirements. 1. Clear the Fate Realm. You have 5 Fate points allocated to a major profession and enter the Sea Destruction stage. 2. Complete at least 20 missions. 3. Participated in night training at least once. 4. Overall combat power index meets the Academy's assessment standard, measured by actual combat assessment. Only by meeting these 4 requirements could one be promoted to the 4th year. By then, the Apprentice Knight's main experience would be on Broken Seed. 4th-year students had to use an extremely difficult method to break the seed, allowing the seed of destiny in their heads to germinate and grow into a talent tree, that belonged solely to them, allowing them to cross over to a whole new stage. Once this was achieved, one would meet the graduation criteria of a novice knight. A large-scale event similar to the NBA draft will be held at the end of the year, knight promotion. This group of students who had reached the graduation standard would complete a series of special tests, individual battles, and group battles under the watch of the leaders of the 13 Knight Orders. Through the test results and the characteristics of the individual, they will be chosen to join or voluntarily join a Knight Order that matches their values and ability system to become an official knight. The promotion of knights would take place in the sacred city's Olympus Grand Arena. The event was open to the public. The venue could accommodate 8,000 spectators. At that time, under the gaze of the entire sacred city, they would be promoted to the ranks of knights, respected by all, shouldering a great mission and fighting for the cause of human freedom. Such a moment was what all the apprentice knights studying in the National Royal Knight Academy yearned for. In addition, there were also differences in the promotion of knights. They had received great honors in the 4 years of the Academy's activities or passed through a difficult destiny event each time, or their talent tree was unique and powerful, and so on. All kinds of special factors would become bonus points. It was similar to the #1 draft pick in the NBA. In each year's Knight promotion event, the 4 new knights with the highest comprehensive evaluation would be given a special title, 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. The title came from the last chapter of the New Testament of the Bible, Revelation, chapter 6, which meant revelation from heaven. Revelation mentioned that on the day of Judgment Day, there would be a lamb that would be unsealed, summoning knights riding white, red, black, and green horses. The first knight was a white horse, symbolizing plague. The second knight was a red horse, symbolizing slaughter. The third knight was a black horse, symbolizing famine. The fourth knight was a green horse, symbolizing death. It meant that these 4 knights would bring plague, war, famine, and death to mankind, and then the world would be destroyed. However, the knights in the Holy City had a completely different meaning. The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse here would bring hope to mankind. Therefore, in the Knight promotion event, according to the performance and characteristics of these 4 knights, they would be given a unique and permanent title. In addition to being able to choose to join the Knight Order, they would also be able to receive various benefits in the future of their official knight career. Of course, this was only the beginning of their knight career. Even if they had a good start, they might not be able to stay at the forefront. Once they were disturbed by arrogance, once they slacked off, they would quickly fall from the peak. This was the entire process from entering the academy to graduation and gradually growing into a knight. Currently, Han Dong had already been allocated 4 fate points in mysticism. As long as he could complete this knight training, he would be able to smoothly enter his second year at the end of the semester. Han Dong's progress was already ahead of many people. But because the Destiny realm had a cooldown of 1 year, if Han Dong wanted to pursue a secondary profession, he had to ensure that every time he entered the Destiny realm, he would be able to complete the relevant events in his best condition and unlock as many hidden missions as possible to obtain additional fate points. Let's go. Han Dong used the last day of rest to sleep in his dormitory for an entire day to replenish his energy. Today, the preliminaries of the night training would begin at 12 o'clock sharp. Han Dong made all the preparations and set off for the Serene Knight Arena, located in the south-central part of the school. Who knew? Han Dong had just walked down the stairs and arrived at the hall of the dormitory. At the same time, 2 voices called out to Han Dong from different directions. Brother Lon, student Nicholas. On one side was the handsome blonde Cass Maldini, who was wearing a silver knight armor. On the other side was Mia Semenovich, who was wearing a wizard hat, a black miniskirt, and knee-length boots. Chapter 174. The main hall of the dormitory. Just as the 2 of them called out Han Dong's English name at the same time, they immediately turned to look at each other. Alan's classmate, Cass, on the other hand, had a bright smile on his face as he nodded slightly at this witch apprentice in a friendly manner. He thought that this girl was a female classmate in the Mystic Academy who had a good relationship with Han Dong. However, Cass was still very optimistic that Han Dong would have a good relationship with Silas. Mia, on the other hand, stared strangely at this golden-haired knight who was full of righteousness. Strange. Why would he make friends with such an upright knight? Wouldn't it increase the risk of his secret being exposed? Han Dong, on the other hand, had a helpless expression. He had clearly asked her to stop pestering him, but she still came looking for him. This woman, however, since Cass was also in the hall, Han Dong could not directly tell Mia to get lost. Just as Han Dong smiled in response to the two of them, Mia did not care about what had happened that day at all. She stepped forward and grabbed Han Dong's thin and weak arm. Let's go. Let's go to the Samir Knight arena together and work hard to pass the preliminaries. If it were any other man, he would definitely be willing to have a young girl with such a good figure and face take the initiative to hug him. However, Han Dong was different. He immediately activated a certain ability, so much so that Han Dong's right arm seemed to have something squirming about. Mia, due to her spider's sensitive senses, instinctively let go of his arm when she sensed the danger. Just as Mia let go, Han Dong took the initiative to walk toward Cass. He had a happy expression on his face, as if they had not seen each other for a long time. After a friendly hug, Cass put his strong arm around Han Dong's shoulder as usual. They talked about some of the things that happened in the past 3 months as they walked out of the dormitory building. Mia was a little angry and pouted, but she was unusually excited. Wow, I didn't expect him to like this. That's great. The two men walked out of the dormitory with their arms around each other's shoulders. Cass also noticed that the girl was silently following behind them. Out of courtesy, he still asked Han Dong, that girl? That girl over there. Aren't you going to introduce her? I'm not that close with her. She's the only one who keeps bothering me. She's a student of, Chironia Mason. She's a freshman in the same batch as me. Witch's student. There were a few well-known big shots in the school, and Cass knew them from the sound of it. He hurriedly turned around and waved at the girl again, briefly introducing himself. Then, Cass tilted his head and whispered into Han Dong's ear. Brat, are you in a relationship with Knight Celeste? Is that why you don't dare to fool around outside? Don't talk nonsense. Sister Wino and I are just friends. I just don't want to interact with girls. It will affect my studies. Huh. Just like me, every time I had time to go home, my father would ask me to think about the matter between me and Sophia. However, I'm currently in an important stage of my growth, so I can't consider these things yet. Besides, before I become an official knight, I can't give Sophia enough guarantees and promises. I believe Sophia can understand this. Sophia and Coslin will also participate, right? Yes. However, even if Sophia and Brother Coslin pass the preliminaries, they won't be in the same group as you. After all, they're in the same batch as Year 2. Brother Lon, you're in the same batch as Year 1. There's such a classification. Han Dong wasn't very familiar with the rules of the knight's training, so he took the opportunity to obtain some information from Cass in advance. That's right. Novice knights of 5 stars and below can participate in the training. Once you pass the preliminaries, you'll be divided into Year 3, Year 2, and Year 1. The corresponding training intensity is different. I see. Cass gestured behind him. Actually, you can build a good relationship with this witch apprentice. Since she's a student of the witch, she should be able to pass the preliminaries. At that time, you'll be in the same group. It's good to take care of each other. After all, Brother Lon, it's not convenient for you to use some of your abilities during the training. It's fine. I can do it alone. Just like that, since the arena where the preliminaries were held wasn't too far away from the dormitory area, they could warm up in advance by walking there. Mia, on the other hand, was like an obedient girl. She followed behind him and maintained a distance of about 3 meters. She lowered her head and didn't say a word. From time to time, she would glance at Han Dong from the corner of her eyes. Even Cass felt awkward and wanted to try to get closer to Han Dong. Samir Knight's arena. It retained the characteristics of the ancient Roman Colosseum. It was an oval-shaped arena built with stone as its foundation. The long axis was about 201 meters long. The short axis was about 149 meters long, and the walls were about 50 meters high. Its size was the third largest among all the arenas in the Holy City. It was the first choice for large-scale activities in the Knight Academy. Usually, many knight groups would use this arena for training. There were 18 entrances at the bottom, all sealed with steam-type metal doors. After showing his knight certificate and entering the arena, Cass removed his arm from Han Dong's shoulder. Cass took out a document stamped with the Crusader seal and said, "Brother Lon, I'm in the second round of the preliminaries. I don't need to participate in the regular preliminaries. I need to give a detailed report confirmed by the Academy to the knight in charge of leading the team this time. I wanted to warn you about something, but with your ability, this kind of preliminaries is nothing. Good luck." Okay. Han Dong didn't pay attention to Mia, who was always beside him. After passing the relevant physical examination, he went straight to the center of the arena. There were already a large number of apprentice knights gathered here, waiting for the preliminaries to officially begin. Through the signs on the ground, the knights of different grades were separated into rows. This meant that the qualifiers would be different depending on the age group. As there were no rigid requirements to participate in the preliminaries, there was no limit to the number of participants. 80% of the apprentice knights would come here to give it a try. Even if they couldn't pass, they could gain some experience in the preliminaries and have a clear understanding of their own strength. Han Dong, a thin young man who was only 1.7 meters tall, was immediately treated by people who didn't know him as the one in charge of being at the bottom. Little Magic Eye. He was half open throughout the whole process, secretly observing the group of freshmen. Among the 200 freshmen, Han Dong noticed a few unusual apprentice knights. Their aura was completely different from the other apprentice knights. I'm not the only special apprentice knight. Chapter 175. Han Dong was about to enter the area designated as freshman. Someone gently tugged at his sleeve. "Hey, can I go with you? I swear I won't disturb you." Also, the witch told me a lot of details about the preliminaries. I'm willing to share them all. If there's a teaming segment, the two of us can greatly increase our chances of passing. Han Dong didn't respond to her directly. Instead, he looked at the wind-up timer on his wrist to confirm that there was enough time. "Come with me." Okay. Han Dong quickly walked to the arena's resting area. As soon as he entered, he found a small, empty, dark space. Asterisk smack. Asterisk cabinet. As soon as Mia stepped in, Han Dong showed his unusually tough side and forced her into a corner. "I won the sparring match 3 days ago, right? The condition was for you to stop pestering me. I hope you can keep your promise." Being cabinet like this, coupled with Han Dong's unusually fierce gaze, Mia's eyes immediately became wet with tears. In response to the girl's tears, Han Dong replied with a cold expression. "You have tears, but your expression is a little exaggerated. Don't pretend in front of me. I'm not interested in women." As soon as he said this, Mia immediately put away her sorrowful expression and revealed a very interested expression as she asked tentatively, "What's the matter? You're not interested in women? Could it be you're interested in the blonde guy just now? At least not interested in you. What's your purpose?" "I don't have any purpose. I'm just interested in you. The first time I met you, I felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity, as if I met a confidant. You're letting me follow you in this night training? Also, if there's an accident and I accidentally get separated from the group during this training outside the city, with our special abilities, we'll definitely be able to survive if we work together. Besides, Mr. Black and White isn't here. If your identity is recognized by the leader of the Knights, I can still vouch for you, right?" Han Dong could already tell that Mia was planning to pester him to death. Therefore, Han Dong showed the number 1. "I have a condition. If you do anything that makes me feel inappropriate, our temporary partnership will be terminated immediately. At that time, if you still insist on pestering me, I'll give you a chance. I will think of a way to separate us from the main group. When we meet up with the main group again, I will be the only one left." Mia looked aggrieved. "You threaten me." All of a sudden, in the originally pitch-black resting area, dazzling ash particles floated out, and the temperature rose sharply. Meanwhile, A wisp of evil energy that Mia had never seen before also overflowed from Han Dong's body. Crunch, crunch, the sound of joints twisting, two twisted, slender, and long arms slowly crawled out of Han Dong's back. His black hair fluttered. A terrifying woman's face was reflected in the black hair. It was like the horrible scene in the Destiny realm where an evil spirit was attracted because of a wrong decision. Mia was so scared that she took 2 steps back. Smack! When she took a step back, Mia bumped into a solid object similar to a steel plate, and it was very hot. She looked back. It was not steel, but a bald man. A pair of demonic eyes from hell were staring at her. This man, with a saw blade embedded in his forehead, brought great pressure to Mia. At this moment, Han Dong spoke. "Do you still want to follow me?" Han Dong was very clear that although Mia's curse came from outside the city, she was still a human. This was also the reason why she could follow the witch without being suspected. However, her nature was definitely evil. Since Mia wanted to pester him, Han Dong might as well be frank. "As long as you get in the way, I'll get rid of you." Unexpectedly, something slightly out of Han Dong's expectation happened. Mia lowered her head and bit her soft lips tightly. She did not dare to raise her head to look at the woman in red floating beside Han Dong, nor did she dare to look back at the terrifying demon behind her. She walked forward slowly and reached out to grab the corner of Han Dong's clothes, nodding slightly. Yes! For a moment, the evil thoughts and the scorching heat of hell dissipated. When Mia raised her head again, Han Dong had already turned and stepped out of the resting area. However, Han Dong stretched out a hand over his shoulder and waved gently, indicating for her to hurry up and follow. Coming. Seeing that Han Dong accepted her, Mia was so excited that there was even a wisp of black gas under the mask. Several small spiders crawled out of Mia's ears and crawled in her mouth, just like that. The two returned to the arena on time. Han Dong purposely stood at the very back, at a less conspicuous spot. Mia, on the other hand, stuck close to him, holding onto the corner of Han Dong's shirt. Han Dong said coldly, "You should be very famous in the mysterious academy, right? After all, you have the best results in our batch of outstanding students. Are you deliberately trying to attract the attention of others and increase the risk of us being exposed by holding on to me like this? Let go." Oh, Mia pouted her small mouth and looked aggrieved. She let go of her small hand, but still leaned close to Han Dong to ensure that no third party would come between them. "Master, this woman is full of drama. Evil and dangerous. Why do you want her to follow you? Do you really want to do her outside the city?" Chun-Li had a lot of opinions about Mia, who was clinging to her master without letting go. Don't fight and kill for no reason. Harmonious civilization. Since she doesn't want to let go, we might as well take this opportunity to find out the source of her curse. Once she leaves the city wall, her spider curse might change. At that time, we might even be able to borrow her for a while. "Mr. Han Dong, are you going to trip people again?" "Sure. This is called a plan." Time was up. All the apprentice knights gathered in the arena were silent at the same time. This was because a heavy, irritable, and full of wildness aura instantly filled the entire arena. The Behemoth Knights are here. This aura, could it be that the commander is here in person? The side door of the arena, the iron door that was specially used to release the giant beasts, slowly opened with the rotation of the gears. The passageway of the ordinary resting area couldn't accommodate the body of such a person. As the iron door opened, an even greater pressure was released. For a moment, about 60% of the students in the Year 1 area couldn't withstand this heavy pressure. Plop! Both knees fell to the ground. If it was the previous Han Dong, he would definitely fall to the ground and not get up. However, the current Han Dong didn't know if his body could withstand it. Han Dong could use a unique method to weaken the effect of the heavy pressure on his body. He stood still on the spot. He didn't pretend to fall. After all, this might also be a part of the preliminaries. Han Dong needed to stay standing. At this time, a giant body that was completely beyond the scope of a human squeezed out of the door. Every step caused the ground to tremble. Commander of the Behemoth Knights came on Ryan. Chapter 176. Behemoth was the largest creature on the land. It could devour 1,000 mountains every day. It couldn't leave those mountains, otherwise time would be disordered. Because it was insatiable, God only created one. Among God's creations, Behemoth was the leader. Boom, boom, boom. Among the big figures Han Dong had seen, the Great Plague, Leader Mograin's body, was already terrifying enough. However, it couldn't be compared with this man who came from the beast-fighting sect. This person was far beyond the scope of human beings. His waist was 2.5 meters wide, and his overall height was more than 4 meters. A giant white fur of unknown origin was draped over his body, exuding a wild, bestial aura. The exposed upper body had extremely exaggerated giant muscles. The mountain tattoo was imprinted on the surface of his body. For a moment, it made Han Dong feel like he was standing in front of a mountain. Not only his body, but even his spirit was under a terrible pressure. This person's wrist and ankle were wearing an extremely large and heavy alloy ring. Upon closer inspection, the space around the ring actually showed signs of slight distortion. It seemed to be caused by the high density of the ring itself. The ring should be the best equipment from the Destiny realm. Its effect seemed to be deliberately increasing the weight, but also seemed to be sealing a part of this person's energy. Let's talk about some of this person's inhuman characteristics. All the hair on his face was white. There were 2 giant curved teeth, more than 1 meter long, growing out of his chin. Through his long beard, they curved upward, somewhat similar to mammoth's tusks. His eyes had no pupils, they were all white. This appearance was not only like a human, but also like a prehistoric giant beast. Mia stuck close to him and whispered, "This person is known as the strongest creature in the Holy City. The blood of the giant beast, Behemoth, flows in his body. His comprehensive strength should be ranked in the top 10 of the Holy City." Behemoth, the change of physique, is it the harvest in the Destiny realm? Yes, it should be the blood of Behemoth that was exchanged from the Destiny realm with a large amount of points. Moreover, even if an ordinary person can obtain such blood, they can't control it. Before the blood exchange, Kaimon Ryan's physique could be ranked in the top of the Holy City. He majored in control and was born as an orc. Well, thank you. Oh, no need to thank me. As the team leader walked to the center of the arena, his white eyes looked at everyone. Those who can't even withstand a little bit of pressure can scram. Don't make me say it again. With such abilities, you still want to follow me outside the city wall. Don't insult the identity of knights. The novice knight who couldn't stand straight was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat, because this pressure did not decrease. This group of apprentice knights could only crawl away in shame. How irritable! Han Dong stood silently in place and scanned the people who remained in the field. Before the official preliminaries even began, nearly 1/3 of the apprentice knights had already left. This elite training will be led by the Behemoth Knights. The venue chosen for this training, the various requirements, and the rules related to the qualifiers would all be different from before. This was the result of my application to the council. What I hope is that among the apprentice knights here, if you have any thoughts of luck, please leave as soon as possible, because this little bit of luck will lead you to make irreversible measures in the training, which will lead to your own death and bring trouble to others. After listening to this speech, the students present were mentally prepared in advance and were temporarily unmoved. After all, the night training itself had a very high position. Every year, different night groups would lead the team, so there would always be some differences in style. However, at this time, team leader Kaimon opened a huge map outside the city. The destination of this training was marked with a red cross. An undeveloped woodland 69 kilometers away from the Holy City. Many of the students present who had a detailed understanding of the night training had a very ugly face. They gritted their teeth and turned around to leave. Indeed, their hearts were not very firm. Just like this, about 10% of the students left the field. At this time, Mia quietly explained to Han Dong, "Wow, so far, generally, the night training will be carried out in an area that is less than 30 kilometers away from the Holy City. This time, It is more than twice the usual distance. Moreover, they chose to carry out the training in a woodland with a lot of variables. Once the spirit is affected and accidentally separated from the group, it will be very difficult to walk out alive. The distance is more than 60 kilometers. Without the escort of the night group, it is impossible for us apprentice knights to return to the holy city on our own. Is that so? I understand. Han Dong did not say thank you this time, but Mia slightly pouted and said, I told you some confidential and important information. Why don't you thank me? You are a little bit despicable. After being scolded by Han Dong like this, Mia actually showed an excited expression, as if she liked it very much. Team leader Kaimon looked at the remaining apprentice knights. There should be two kinds of people left who are willing to stay here. One is the true elites who can follow the behemoth knights out of the city, and the other is the blind juniors who have no self-awareness at all. Let's use the preliminaries to decide. At this time, many people were already rubbing their hands and warming up. According to the previous rules, the preliminaries would test the basic physical attributes of the apprentice knights through various instruments. The apprentice knights ranked within 100 would have the opportunity to leave the city. But it was different this time. Boom! Team leader Kaimon suddenly sat down. Not only did he sit down, but the ground also shook violently. The preliminaries have been changed. I will personally confirm whether you can follow the behemoth knights out of the city. There is no strict quota. As long as I think you can do it, then you can. Starting from here, walk in front of me one by one. Starting from the area where the third-year apprentice was standing. A library apprentice who only relied on his magic shield to block the heavy pressure calmly walked in front of Kaimon. They looked at each other. Not bad. You pass next. Immediately after, a strong crusader with a huge sword on his back walked up and looked at Kaimon. You can't do it next. Wait, team leader Kaimon. Why can't I do it? I have already reached the seed-breaking stage. My physical attributes and combat skills are at the top. Following this crusader apprentice's question, team leader Kaimon, who was sitting upright, suddenly leaned forward and let two mammoth tusks graze the apprentice's cheeks. They looked at each other closely. I said you can't do it, so you can't do it. If you continue to talk nonsense, I will destroy you. Next. As soon as he said this crusader apprentice was so shocked that he lost consciousness and was carried away by the staff in the arena. Chapter 177. Han Dong roughly understood the rules of the preliminaries after watching the interviews of nearly 100 people. Third-year students have at least 3 fate points invested into their main talent. Moreover, after going through nearly 3 years of academy training, they have already received enough training and have handled a large number of bounty missions. The rules of the preliminaries set by Commander Kai are very simple, to judge whether a person is qualified or not by judging their fear tolerance. For us freshmen, the requirements should be slightly lower. However, Commander Kai didn't seem to have any intention of taking care of the junior apprentice knights. When it came to the second-year students, the passing rate plummeted. Even Ko Slin and Sophia, whom Han Dong knew, had barely passed the test. Just like that, it was the turn of the freshmen who had just entered the academy for 3 months. Commander Kai Meng said impatiently, I don't really like taking care of freshmen. You can all wait until next year to participate in the easier night training. For this trip out of the city, I have almost the same requirements for every apprentice knight. If it wasn't for the Council's mandatory requirements for personnel selection, I wouldn't be willing to take you bunch of hairless brats out of the city. If you don't meet any of the requirements in the training, don't even think about passing the final examination. Even if you can come back alive, this time's night training will be marked as unqualified. If you still insist on staying, then line up and stand in front of me. Since Commander Kai didn't plan to take care of the junior apprentice knights, and the pressure from before eliminated a large number of new apprentice knights, there were only 13 left. Currently, only 13 people remained, standing in a line in front of Kai Meng. At least it shows that you have some courage. Let me see what you freshmen are capable of. Kai Meng's white eyes slowly swept across the row of freshmen. The pressure doubled, and the mental burden increased by more than 3 times. Many people's sweat flowed out from their pores the moment they were stared at, soaking their clothes and dripping down. The biological instinct in their bones was drawn out, and they couldn't stop their legs from trembling. But there were also a few apprentice knights who were unmoved by the stare at such a close distance. Just as Commander Kai Meng's gaze swept past Han Dong, his white eyes suddenly stopped, because he unexpectedly saw a unique crow mark on the back of Han Dong's right hand. Facing Captain Kaiman's stare, Yi Zichen nodded. Han Dong's body was obviously thin and weak, and his skin was even yellowed due to lack of nutrition. However, he did not move at all and maintained his normal standing posture. That's weird. Kai Meng leaned forward and purposely got closer to Han Dong. In that moment, the pressure increased by several times. That crow, it's taking in a student? Are you a student? Han Dong could not resist such special treatment. He nodded slightly and squeezed out 2 words from between his teeth. Yes. Interesting. Kai Meng retracted his body, as if a huge mountain had been removed from Han Dong's body. He continued to look at the next person. After his gaze swept over Mia, he gave the conclusion of the examination of the freshmen, pointing to 6 freshmen. This batch of rookies is pretty good. They exceeded my expectations. The 6 of you can participate in the group training. Go back and prepare. The danger level of this group training is much higher than the previous ones. The 6 of you may have good prospects in the future. It's not worth it to die. During the group training, I will still take care of you rookies with potential. The 6 of you will be classified as a special team. My assistant will be secretly responsible for your safety. The relevant requirements will be explained in detail during the group training. Go back and prepare all the supplies. Gather at the city gate at 9 o'clock tomorrow. The same goes for the other apprentice knights. Go back and enjoy your last day of peace. Thank you, Commander Kai Meng. Among the 6 selected rookies, Han Dong and Mia were naturally included. Just as the 6 of them were preparing to follow the other senior students and leave the arena together, Commander Kai Meng suddenly said, "You two, wait a moment before you leave." The 2 here, one was referring to Han Dong. The other was referring to a special male student among the 6 selected freshmen, an apprentice knight with spiky white hair and wearing a simple animal skin coat. Seeing this, Mia hurriedly tugged at the corner of Han Dong's shirt and said softly, "Congratulations on being chosen by Captain Kaiman. He will be waiting for you outside the arena." Han Dong remained where he was and did not give any response. After waiting for everyone to stand, Commander Kai Meng laughed out loud for some reason. "Ha ha! Some time ago, I heard that the crow recruited a student. I just took it as a joke. I didn't expect to meet you today. Since you're the crow's student, you should be outstanding in the aspect of perception, right? What is your name?" "Warren Nicholas." The 2 of you have a much higher fear tolerance than your peers. Not bad. I can leak some of the group training arrangements to you in advance. The theme of this group training is survival in the wilderness. You need to live alone outside the city for a period of time without help. Of course, I also said that. You freshmen have a lot of potential. As long as you don't die, you'll have a good future. I will also send people to take care of you in secret to ensure your safety as much as possible. However, there are still risks. Therefore, I asked you 2 to stay here. There's a special task for you in advance. As long as you can do it well, I will give you an excellent evaluation in the group training file. That's right. This is my eldest grandson. Abel, you and Nicholas get to know each other. Eldest grandson? Han Dong noticed this white-haired student with a unique aura among the freshmen at the beginning. With the vision of the little magic eye, this person was exuding a wild white aura. This white aura would sometimes gather around Abel's body to form the faces of various beasts. In Han Dong's eyes, this young man, Abel, should be the strongest among the freshman apprentice knights. He didn't expect him to be the grandson of Commander Kai Meng. "Hello, I am Abel Ryan, majoring in control. I am honored to be able to participate in this elite group training with the students of the Crow Prophet." Unexpectedly, This white-haired boy wearing animal skin was fundamentally different from Commander Kai Meng. His words didn't have Kai Meng's manic and beastly nature. Instead, he was very polite. Hello. When Han Dong reached out to shake hands with this person, he directly felt the power of this student Abel. He was fundamentally different from other apprentice knights. If Han Dong's good friend, Cass, was considered superior among the apprentice knights of the same rank, then this Abel Ryan was the one who stood at the top among the apprentice knights of the same rank. Staring at the scene of the two shaking hands, Commander Kai Meng couldn't help but open the memory that had been sealed for a long time in his mind. At the top of the hill, where corpses were everywhere, he stood at the top of the hill with his whole body covered in monster fluids. His beastly nature was unleashed, and his rage was hard to suppress. Coupled with the deep contamination, when the beastly Kai Meng was about to go berserk, a crow flew over and stopped on his shoulder. Chapter 178. The special mission I want to give you is, for this elite training, the 6 selected freshmen will establish a special team on the basis of the original team. One of my deputies will secretly ensure the safety of your team, but I won't pay for your major mistakes. Abel Ryan. Here. Abel knelt on one knee, then supported his body with his right fist and lowered his head respectfully. There was no hint of affection in his eyes at all, as if he was a soldier receiving an important order from his superior. You will be the captain of this special team. Yes, sir. Warren Nicholas. Here. You will be the chief of staff and deputy captain of this special team, assisting Abel throughout. Yes, sir. Cayman's following words were unusually firm, and his voice directly echoed in the minds of the two. The two of you will work together to manage the 6-man team and ensure the safety of all members. During the training, if there are any serious casualties in the team, you will be held responsible. On the other hand, as long as you can lead the team to complete the relevant requirements during the training period without any deaths, you will receive an excellent evaluation on the evaluation form. Any other questions? Since Captain Came On had arranged it this way, Han Dong naturally couldn't refuse. As far as Han Dong was personally concerned, he didn't want to take on such a position. Han Dong's personality was more inclined to act alone. Moreover, there were too many unknown factors outside the city walls, plus his connection with a mysterious yellow robe. If he encountered an abnormal situation outside the city, the possibility of his secret being exposed would greatly increase. Of course, when the time came, he could also shift the blame to Mia or use her as a shield. Establishing a temporary relationship with Mia is also a correct decision. That's all for now. I hope you can prepare well after this, and don't let me down. Okay, Han Dong left first. Han Dong felt that it was necessary to report to Mr. Black and White about what happened today. After watching Han Dong leave, the smile on Abel Ryan's face immediately disappeared, and he turned to Captain Came On with a strange expression. Grandfather, there's something strange about this person. No matter if it's his appearance or the handshake just now, I can't believe it. In my opinion, his standards should be slightly above average. But when I get close to him, or when I look at him directly, the 100 beasts in my body will feel a faint sense of danger. It's very strange, as if there's something extremely dangerous hidden in his body, even more terrifying than my 100 beasts. When Abel said this, not only did Commander Kai Meng not have any expression of doubt, he instead had a happy expression. He rubbed the huge tusks that grew out of his chin as he said, "Ha ha." After all, this was the student that Crow had taken a fancy to. If it's not strange, then there's a problem if he's only slightly above average. Abel asked curiously, "Is there any special meaning behind Grandfather's arrangement?" Grandfather, even if you don't directly appoint me as the captain. According to my prestige and strength among the freshmen, when the time comes, they will naturally elect me as their leader. If this student of the Raven Prophet possesses a special ability and extraordinary decision-making ability, he would naturally become the cornerstone of the team when encountering a dangerous situation. Kai Ming very patiently explained to his eldest grandson, My purpose in doing this is only to determine the relationship between the two of you in advance. I hope that this student chosen by the Raven will be on good terms with you. With your talent and unique physique, you will definitely inherit the position of commander of the Behemoth Knights in the future. But if you want to bring the Knight Regiment to a higher level, it won't be easy. If this person can grow to the same level as you in the future, then with your relationship of life and death, you can invite him to be the Chief of Staff of the Behemoth Knights. This will directly allow the overall standard of the Knight Regiment to take a big step forward. Abel had a face full of surprise. He had never seen his grandfather have such a high evaluation of a person. Grandfather, could it be that you saw something special about him? Is he that powerful? No, I don't believe in this kid. I just believe in the Raven's vision. This Raven's position in the Holy City is one level higher than many of our commanders. To be able to be chosen by the Raven, his talent must be equal to the Raven's, or even better, or there must be something special that we can't see clearly. I really want to have a chance to meet this Raven prophet. There will naturally be a chance in the future. In short, make a good relationship with this student and try to understand some of his secrets. Understood. Mr. Black and White's reputation is really big. I didn't think that he would have such a deep relationship with Commander Kaimeng. Speaking of which, with the power given by the Destiny Realm, humans can actually evolve to this level. If such a giant existence like Commander Kaimeng went to the world I was in, it would be like a walking human nuclear bomb. The balance of the world might be broken because of him. Han Dong could see that Commander Kaimeng thought so highly of him only because of his relationship with Mr. Black and White. Just as Han Dong stepped out of the arena, two soft hands suddenly wrapped around him. He was immediately held tightly by two soft and slender arms. He didn't need to think to know who it was. Wow, Commander, Kaimeng actually asked you to stay and talk with Abel alone? What did you guys talk about? Can you tell me? Han Dong didn't answer Mia's question. Instead, he asked, "Do you know Abel? You're probably the only freshman who doesn't know him. Who doesn't know Abel Ryan's name? He's Kaimeng's eldest grandson. When he entered the school, he passed the 4.5-star difficulty newbie event. In addition, Abel's comprehensive test score was full marks. It's an extremely rare full mark of excellence. He's known as a rare genius in the field of beast control. It's rumored that Abel seems to have a special kind of beast physique. His true potential is even higher than his grandfather, Commander Kaimeng. That powerful. That's right. It's just that no matter how powerful this Abel is, he won't take a second look. He's always only interested in you. Can you do me a favor tonight? Sure. I want detailed information on the 6 newcomers this time. Please help me sort out. What's there to sort out? How about this? You could just come to my treehouse tonight. I'll tell you slowly in bed. Anything you want to know, including other people's private matters, I can't tell you." Mia's hint was already very obvious, but Han Dong wasn't interested at all. "Come with me to the stargazing room. First, I have something to talk to Mr. Black and White about." "Ah, okay." Mia was a little hesitant. She didn't seem to be ready to meet Mr. Black and White. Chapter 179. The carriage sped through the dark moon forest. Going to the stargazing room to report that Han Dong had been appointed as the chief of staff of the special team was a small matter. The main thing was that Mr. Black and White was going to give Han Dong a lesson alone. It was a lesson about basic knowledge outside the city. Before leaving the city, they had to understand the relevant basic knowledge. Mia, who had always been lively, was silent on the way. Han Dong, who was leaning against the window on the other side of the carriage, said softly, "If Mr. Black and White wanted to expose you, he would have interfered on the first day you entered the mystery branch. More than 10 years ago, when the curse established a relationship with you, he sent people to quietly erase you from the holy city. You can now carry out normal learning activities in the mystery branch. At least it means that Mr. Black is neutral. You're also a smart person. You should know what I mean." "Thank you. I'm just a little afraid of talking to Mr. Black and White directly. If I'm not careful, I'll be hooked into the abyss." Han Dong only smiled and looked out the window. He did not say anything else, and he had no intention of comforting her. If Mr. Black and White could draw out Mia's true inner side through conversation, Han Dong would be very happy. The two of them went up the elevator. The secret door of the stargazing room had been opened in advance. Warm firelight spilled out from the gap in the door. Just as the two of them pushed the door open and entered, Mia was surprised. Mr. Black and White was not the only one sitting here. On the opposite side of the sofa was the witch, Coronia, who was wrapped in a black gauze dress. Teacher. When Mia saw the witch, she was so shocked that she broke out in a sweat. She had spent a full 3 months in Deadwater Swamp to cultivate witchcraft and finally won the witch's absolute trust. Moreover, Mia was very clear about one thing. There is a certain barrier between the witch and Mr. Black and White. The two of them rarely interacted with each other. Moreover, there was a special witchcraft barrier in Deadwater Swamp that prevented the crows controlled by Mr. Black and White from spying on the swamp area. Because of this, Mia could live in the swamp area with peace of mind. The current situation was the worst. If Mr. Black and White exposed the witch's true identity in front of her, or even used the raven's whisper, all of their efforts would be in vain. However, just as Mia was sweating profusely from the back of her neck, a gentle voice entered her mind. Mia Simonovich, don't worry. You're an outstanding student of the mystery branch. This time, you'll be leaving the city with Nicholas. Come and listen to the lesson. After he finished speaking, Mia abruptly looked at Mr. Black and White and tried her best to put on a natural smile. The two juniors sat together on the sofa. Mia appeared to be very uncomfortable, and she sat upright and still with a nervous look on her face. Ta! Which Kaluna placed her long legs on the metal coffee table in front of her. I heard that Keeman only allowed 6 rookies to pass the preliminaries today. Commander Kai Meng doesn't seem to like newbies. This beast always likes to mess around like this. However, it's not bad that you can represent the mystery branch and take up 2 of the 6 spots. If you can get an outstanding evaluation during the training period, the higher-ups will also realize the importance of the mystery branch and increase the supply of resources. Before you leave the city, some basic lessons are necessary. In terms of basic teaching of life outside the city, no one in the mystery branch can compare to me. That's why Black and White specially asked me to come here. The witch's explanation made it seem as if Mr. Black and White couldn't take on the job of basic teaching and had to kneel down and beg her to come. Of course, Mr. Black and White just sat there quietly with a curved smile on his mask. First, the witch took out 2 documents from her black dress. There were pictures of Mia and Han Dong's faces on them. According to your files, both of you have dealt with major incidents related to pollution through the normal channels of the Adventurers Guild. Moreover, you have also experienced baptism and stress release in the church area. I've applied for a temporary investigation certificate for you. It's only available during this training period. Investigation certificate? What's the point of that? It was the first time Han Dong heard of this. There was nothing special about the documents in his hand. Mr. Black and White didn't mention this to you? How irresponsible. At this point, the witch deliberately glared at Black and White. I'll just tell you briefly. It's not a waste of time. If it's not for the elite training, if you want to leave the city with a proper identity, you have to take the investigation certificate. Even if you're a gifted knight, there's no exception. This kind of exam is to test your temperament, fear tolerance, mental loopholes, and so on, to assess the risk of leaving the city. Outside the city, it's not as simple as pollution. Even for knights of our level, leaving the city is still risky. Exploring and investigating outside the city is like walking into the abyss, diving into the deep sea, and getting sucked into the deep space. No one can predict what will happen during this process. If you're not careful, the hybrid demon seed will penetrate your cerebral cortex and drill into your thinking zone through your mental loopholes. Although incidents like the Knight's corruption have decreased in recent years with the perfection of the rules and the improvement of our overall strength, it can't be completely avoided. Therefore, obtaining the investigation certificate is the basic requirement to leave the city. When you've grown to a certain stage, you'll also need to take the examination and obtain the investigation certificate. If you can go out of the city many times to investigate and bring back important information, make significant contributions, and don't show any signs of corruption, your investigation certificate will be upgraded. Currently, there are only 3 legendary investigators in the Holy City. At this point, the witch was a little unhappy. It seemed that someone she didn't like had become a legendary investigator. Thank you, Teacher Kylonia, for your detailed explanation. Next, I'll teach you an important lesson outside the city. The main content is about the life outside the city that you may encounter during the training period. At this point, Mr. Black and White wave his hand and turn the fireplace in front of everyone into a large blackboard, making it convenient for the witch to teach. The witch sitting on the sofa had no intention of getting up at all. With the movement of her fingers, she controlled a wisp of black aura to wrap around the chalk and quickly write on the blackboard. The destination you're heading to this time is the abandoned Stewart Manor in the southeast part of the Gain Forest. According to our previous investigation, there should be a large number of humans wandering around the manor. Humans? Han Dong was shocked. In Han Dong's prediction, the humans outside the city walls had been completely wiped out. Even if there were a few humans left, they would lose their human form due to the erosion of pollution and lose their qualifications to be human. To a certain extent, some of the high-level existences outside the city still like humans like us, who have a weak physical body but have a highly developed brain. After a series of ideological education, they can become devout slaves. Furthermore, some of the talented humans might even be able to reach the level of hybrid demons after some training. Chapter 180. Unknowingly, the witch controlled 5 pieces of chalk at the same time and wrote down the types of life forms outside the city on the large blackboard. Only low-level life forms and some basic knowledge. The training site that Han Dong and the others went to was 69 kilometers away from the Holy City, but it was still within the controllable area, which was the area that the Holy City Knights had investigated. Of course, it was just an investigation. The range that humans could control was limited to within the Holy City. Outside the city walls, even the land close to the city walls could have a huge change, and a large number of scavengers could suddenly come out from the inside. The farther away from the Holy City, the more dangerous it would be. This was why when Captain Keeman gave a distance of 69 kilometers, 10% of the people immediately left. These people were not weak, but they were unwilling to take such a huge risk during the apprentice night period. In the investigated area outside the city, the majority of the abnormal creatures wandering around are low-level existences. The common low-level existences can be divided into 3 major categories, listed as follows: frowny face wild monsters. With the invasion of a higher level of life forms, the total number of wild animals decreased rapidly, estimated to be reduced by about 90%, with the exception of some insects. The remaining wild animals were affected by various strange factors, causing their own genetic layer to change, or they were contaminated with filth and degenerated. The common wild monster changes were divided into the following 3 categories: frowny face aggregation, mostly small wild animals, such as rats. This kind of aggregation of wild monsters also appeared many times inside the Holy City, and there were several rat incidents in the civilian area. First, residents found that a large number of rats moved in groups and attacked humans. After careful observation, they found that these rats did not move in groups at all. Their fur and even flesh were all connected. When stimulated, the rat group could directly turn into a bloody mouth and swallow the target. Anthropomorphization, commonly seen in mammals. Take the werewolf, for example. It was obviously different from the werewolves in the conventional folklore. A picture of a werewolf was drawn on the blackboard with chalk to show its characteristics. It was a terrifying, protruding spine structure. A huge white spine protruded out of the body, and small tentacles grew between the gaps of the spine, indicating that it had been seriously polluted. There were also a large number of wolf heads on the surface of the body. Their shoulders, waist, and knees were all twisted like the head of a wolf, and they could bite any living thing that came close to them. They were many times more terrifying than the werewolves in folklore. Mother, a rare mutation type. An extremely small number of animals and plants, after coming into contact with high-level existences, after a long period of depravity and evolution, it would evolve into an extremely complex mother body. The matrix usually occupied a sealed area, such as an abandoned village or an underground cave. They reproduce wantonly and hide the area through a kind of fog. Most of the broodmother had reached the level of hybrid demons. Ordinary night training would not encounter them. Evil. It mainly referred to dead objects that were affected by the aura and were given vitality or even developed independent consciousness, most of which were evil. It was rather complicated to classify the filth. Stones alone could be divided into gargoyles, moss golems, nightmare stones. The most common was the evil filth of dead bodies. When a dead human came into contact with the aura, the probability of them turning into evil filth was the highest. Most of them turned into skeletons. Of course, there was still a difference from the skeletons in the minds of ordinary people. In short, one had to be wary of any inanimate objects outside the city. Human, this was the type that needed to be explained the most. It was a great threat in itself. Believer, the most common type. It was also the favorite way to cultivate human beings outside the city. Ordinary humans were cultivated into absolutely loyal cultists. As long as this group of believers could meet some requirements such as hunting, sacrificing, satisfying, and so on, they would be given certain benefits. After receiving benefits, the believers would also become more loyal. The threat of a single believer was not great. Even an ordinary trainee knight could easily deal with them. Special attention should be paid to places with a large number of believers. As long as the number of believers exceeded 2 digits, the degree of danger would increase exponentially. If it was not handled properly, it could cause a large number of casualties. Once they sensed danger, this group of believers would not have any consideration at all and would carry out a large-scale sacrifice on the spot. They could summon a terrifying existence in the middle or even high level. Moreover, a large number of believers gathered together to chant, which would also cause great pollution and harm to the individual from the spiritual level. Believers were a group of individuals whose bodies and souls were still intact, but their minds were completely depraved. Although they were still human on the surface, they were just a group of controlled puppets. In addition, it was also important to note that the believers were also divided into different groups. Due to the different high-level existences, these believers would also be different. Inhuman, a special individual that evolved from believers through self-sacrifice, depravity, and other methods, still maintaining the human form. Among the believers, there was another name for the inhuman, elder. A small number of believers would undergo a high-level mutation in the process of worship. Thus, they could break through the limits of human beings, no longer restricted to the physical body, and derive some extremely dangerous abilities. This kind of inhuman could freely switch between human form and alien form, thus completely hiding their danger. They were an extremely dangerous existence. According to the records, in the history of the elite training, the most deaths of trainee knights were caused by the inhuman. They had evolved an independent and sound consciousness system, insidious and cunning, absolutely evil and dangerous existence, must be paid special attention. Insect adherent, before talking about this special group, it was necessary to talk about the beginning of the new era. The insect's behavior was different from ordinary animals. This group of small invertebrates did not undergo any strange changes similar to the wild monsters. Sensitive perception and internal discipline allowed most insects to protect themselves in a very extreme way when they sensed that the doomsday was coming. Similar to raising poisonous insects, the same species would devour each other, leaving only one existence similar to the king insect. The remaining king insect would still feel the danger. Therefore, they rushed to choose a suitable host to possess before the human beings at that time were completely wiped out. They continued to grow with the potential of human beings in an attempt to survive this doomsday catastrophe. Even so, they still could not fight against the hybrid demons and higher existences. The insect adherents all over the world were killed in the process of resistance. The remaining small number of insect adherents found a relatively safe place to permanent hibernation before the establishment of the Holy City. However, as the higher life forms occupied the world, the aura also spread all over the world. Even if they buried themselves deep underground, it was difficult to escape the invasion of the aura. They gradually decayed during their hibernation, slowly turning into an independent insect adherent that was not controlled by any higher existences. They not only retained some of the characteristics of humans and insects, but also because of the long-term influence of pollution, their thoughts became extremely evil, and they would launch indiscriminate attacks on humans. When he saw the introduction of the insect adherent on the blackboard, Han Dong unconsciously looked at me and next to him. Chapter 181. The information displayed on the blackboard was limited. However, it was enough to shock Han Dong and make him even more curious about the world outside the city. It was just like how the whole world changed drastically after humans took control of the world. During the 200 years when a higher existence occupied the world, a new civilization system, a new race, and a new way of colonization would lead the world into a new era. Existing historians named the day when the sacred city was established and humans were forced to hide in a small space to survive as the Dark Age. The darkness came, and only the fire of destiny could lead humans to continue moving forward in this endless darkness. Han Dong raised his hand, indicating that he wanted to ask a question. The witch looked impatient. I said that this class is just a brief introduction to you, and it's enough for you to prepare for the training. If you want to know more about the outside world, go to the library when you come back alive, or ask your teacher directly. That's the end of today's lecture. Mia, come with me. This is your first time out of the city, so you need to prepare some witchcraft. Okay. Mia looked at Han Dong reluctantly and left with the witch. Han Dong was happy. It was the best situation for Mia to be taken away like this, so that she wouldn't keep pestering him. Moreover, Han Dong could ask Mr. Black and White directly if he had any questions. Do you want to know this? It was a second after the witch left. Mr. Black and White gently pinched the chalk with his white gloves and circled a word on the blackboard. Hybrid demon. When the witch explained the low-level existence, she had used the term hybrid demon many times. It was mentioned in the Mother and the deep evolution of the evil cult. However, the witch seemed to have deliberately avoided it and didn't explain the so-called hybrid demon at all. It was as if Han Dong and the others wouldn't encounter such an existence when they went out of the city for training this time. Han Dong nodded and replied, well, the low-level life, wild monsters and humans described on the blackboard are evil times. In essence, they're all life forms of the original world. They were influenced by the Dark Age and evolved on their own, right? Then were the real life forms outside the city. Was this the hybrid demon that was mentioned on the blackboard? What kind of existence are they? Han Dong was quite curious about the real life forms outside the city. What kind of high-level life forms would awaken in the darkness and bring about an apocalyptic disaster to the human race? Mr. Black and White explained patiently. The low-level life explained by the witch is technically classified as an exogenous species. It is indeed, as he said. It is formed from the life forms of the original world and is influenced by external forces. Hybrid demon. They were the main culprits that led to the apocalypse. Academically, they are classified as origin species. Their numbers are not large, and their reproductive ability is limited. If the mantis demons wanted to reproduce, they had to fulfill certain conditions. As for hybrid demons, it was a general term for this type of high-level life form. Internally, it could be further divided. The origins of the various hybrid demons, the way they were formed, their abilities, and their threat level were all different. Library was located in the deepest part. There was a hybrid demon book which recorded all the hybrid demons that the Holy City had come into contact with. Every single one of them was extremely dangerous. Since you're more than 50 kilometers away from the holy city, there's a very small chance that you will encounter such an origin species. According to the witch, the origin of these low-level life forms is inseparable from the hybrid demons. Then, Han Dong pointed at the back of his left hand, which was where the yellow seal was. Is this mysterious yellow-robed man also related to a type of hybrid demon? Mr. Black and White shook his finger. No, there are many types of hybrid demons, but they're basically classified as middle level. The yellow coat man that we secretly established a relationship with belongs to the high level. As I said, the status of the yellow coat man outside the city is similar to the status of the plague in the holy city. High level. Using low, middle, and high levels to simply make it easier for you young people to understand. In essence, there are more complicated and detailed classifications. After you leave the city with the Behemoth Knights, you can come back and slowly understand. The outside world is much more dangerous than you think. In the past 200 years, the existence of high-level life forms has changed the outside world into a new world suitable for them to live in. This time, the training camp is indeed very far away from the city. Moreover, the training camp is in an abandoned manor with a large number of humans. If you encounter danger that you can't fight against and don't have the support of the knights in time, call it to help. Okay, Han Dong went straight back to his dorm after the training. He organized the knowledge he learned outside the city in detail in his notebook. He was also more and more eager to understand the outside world. After the training camp is over, I need to go to the library to have a basic understanding of the outside world. It's a little interesting. During the rest of the day, Han Dong communicated with the two anomalies in the prison and asked them to prepare to go out of the city to fight against the life forms outside the city. Han Dong, who planned to go to bed early, just came out of the bathroom wrapped in a bath towel. Knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. It wasn't Mia who came to the door. It was Cass. When he opened the door, he saw that Cass was carrying an exquisite animal skin backpack in his hand. There seemed to be a lot of things inside. Cass' memory of his father being saved was still fresh in his mind. He completely treated Han Dong as a brother. Considering that it was Han Dong's first training camp out of the city, he specially prepared a series of necessary items for Han Dong to go out of the city. The two sat on the bed. Cass opened the animal skin backpack and briefly explained how to use these items. Brother Cass, these things cost a lot, right? It's nothing. This portable kerosene lamp that can be used for a long time is made by Coslin. It's free. The other items are bought at market price, so it's nothing. Because the training methods of different years are different, we can't move together. However, you are new students, so the Behemoth Knights will secretly take care of you. However, with your strength, it won't be a problem for you to pass the training camp. Due to Cass' enthusiasm, he forgot to close the door when he squeezed into the dorm, leaving it ajar. At this time, another female guest came to the door. It was Mia. She was holding a document in her hand. It was the detailed information of the new members that Han Dong entrusted her to organize. Student Nicholas, I brought you the information you wanted. Halfway through her words, Mia froze. Han Dong, who was only wrapped in a bath towel, was sitting on the bed with a handsome and strong blonde young man. Moreover, there were all kinds of metal and leather items scattered on the bed. This scene had a great visual impact on Mia. She blushed and appeared to be extremely excited. She quickly put the document in her hand beside the door and said softly, "You can continue. I won't disturb you." Chapter 182. Library. A magic apprentice with medium black hair and a unique metal magic book hanging on his waist with a copper chain. He had a unique British temperament. At present, he hugged a female teacher with long sea blue hair and said goodbye. He sat in a unique black carriage and headed to the city gate. Crusader. In the arena, a young man who had just finished his training walked out. He had a mohawk and many tattoos on his face. He had two unique weapons hanging on his body. When he entered the school, he gave up on relying on the shield and put all his focus on attacking. This person took out a bronze warhorse from the stable and rode it alone to the city gate. Machinery. In the metal furnace room, a female student with fiery red hair walked out. She wore a black vest, leather pants, and a pair of high-top leather shoes. Because she had been working in the high-temperature furnace room for a long time, the female student's arms had obvious muscle contours. She took off her gloves and wiped the sweat off her forehead. At this time, an unusually strong old man with a white beard walked from the front and threw a huge backpack filled with various tools and components in front of her. Clang! There was a heavy thud on the ground. This backpack should weigh a few dozen pounds. Remember to come back with an excellent result. Yes, master. The fiery red-haired girl easily carried the huge backpack filled with various metal components and quickly walked out of the craftsman's area. There was no carriage to pick her up and no horse to ride on. Looking at the clockwork device, there seemed to be enough time. She seemed to be ready to carry the huge backpack and run to the city gate to warm up in advance. Holy City, Nunthanar. The first level was divided into 4 major civilian areas. At the same time, it also corresponded to the 4 city gates, also known as the Titan's Gate. This time, the Behemoth Knights were leading the Knights training. The destination was the west of the Holy City. There were 40 minutes left before the departure time. In front of the huge West Gate, there were already many trainee knights who passed the preliminaries yesterday gathered. Han Dong was stopped by Mia again when he left early in the morning. He had to go to the city gate with her. This was the first time Han Dong stood in front of the city gate that was 100 meters tall. The last time he crossed the city gate, Han Dong was still in a daze. He was mainly thinking about how to escape from the carriage and was not in the mood to carefully admire the city gate. Mixed with 50% copper, other metals, and unique ores to create a super large city gate. It was over 100 meters tall. There was even a statue of the Titan carved on the gate. When the carriage entered the city gate area, they could feel waves of pressure. The road facing the city gate was also nearly 100 meters wide and was known as the Titan Road. Every time the investigation knights returned, both sides of the road would be crowded with civilians holding flowers to celebrate their triumphant return. Just as Han Dong's carriage was about to arrive at the city gate, a voice rang out. The carriage came to a sudden stop due to an external force. A vulture flew over and perched on the window. It signaled Han Dong and the young man to look at Broken Tooth Tavern on the other side of the road. This was no ordinary vulture. Han Dong could feel a sense of danger from this vulture. After contacting the Behemoth Knights under Commander Kai Meng, he guessed that the owner of this vulture should be a knight. Under the vulture's guidance, they entered the tavern area. The waiter in the tavern seemed to have received the order in advance. He directly led Han Dong to a private room in the deepest part of the tavern. Mystery Branch, Warren Nicholas and Mia Simonovich, right? The person who asked was a middle-aged man with a Mediterranean hairstyle and 2 curly mustaches. He was slightly thin and tall. The surface of his animal skin clothes was embedded with a special metal armor. It was comfortable and had the same defensive properties as armor. Second captain of the Kai Meng Knights, Vulture Kenny. Mia immediately recognized the man's identity. Han Dong's guess was correct. This was the deputy that Commander Kai Meng mentioned. He was responsible for secretly ensuring the safety of the 6 freshmen in this training. After confirming the two's identities, Kenny did not say anything. He only needed to wait quietly for the 6 freshmen to arrive. Currently, in the tavern's private room, other than Kenny, there were already 2 freshmen who had arrived in advance. The white-haired Abel Ryan, who exuded a bestial aura from head to toe, had already arrived at the city gate with the Behemoth Knights. When he saw Han Dong, he immediately greeted him with a smile. Other than the characteristic of his spiky white hair, Abel also had a pair of cold eyes. Looking at him for a long time would make people shudder. As for the other person, it was a handsome young man who was sitting in the corner and had just closed his book. He was dressed in a British style and had a temperament of a young man wearing copper wire glasses. Library, Demsmart. Hello. Hello. Han Dong immediately noticed the special magic book in Dem's hands. Moreover, there was a colorless magic shield covering his entire body at all times. Even compared to Sophia, who used to major in holy spells, This freshman was not inferior at all. When Han Dong and Mia had just sat down, another freshman came into the private room. Mohawk hair and all kinds of manic tattoos. His rough image and the polite British young man, Demps, immediately formed a sharp contrast. This person also had a large machete wrapped with combat energy and a black iron-cold axe inlaid with skull stones at his waist. The person in charge, Vulture Kenny, asked, "Crusader, Dao, Abdul Rahman?" This person nodded and had no intention of introducing himself to Han Dong and the others. He took the initiative to sit next to Abel. "Big brother Abel. Dao, you're in good shape. Introduce yourself. We're all elites of our respective departments." Okay, this Middle Eastern guy, who looked like a troublemaker, actually listened to Abel's words. After some introductions, it was confirmed that this Dao was different from the average crusader. He was more of a berserker, and injuries were a common thing for him. Moreover, berserker blood flowed in his body, which greatly increased his resistance when injured and even prevented him from being affected by pollution to a certain extent. It was about to reach the estimated gathering time. The last member of the small team arrived. Huff, huff, huff. The red-haired girl who pushed open the door of the private room gasped for breath. She carried a huge backpack that was 3 times the size of everyone else, almost touching the ceiling of the tavern. Her wheat-colored skin was covered in sweat. If she wasn't wearing a black singlet, her clothes might be soaked. The girl scratched the back of her head with one hand. I'm sorry. I didn't calculate the time well. If I knew, I would have taken a carriage. My name is Winley Austin, majoring in machinery, specializing in blacksmithing. Everyone can just call me Winley. This girl was born with divine strength. Han Dong's little magic, I secretly perceived a force field that spread out with Winley as the center. Perhaps even Dao, who majored in Crusader, could not compare to this girl in terms of strength. Chapter 183. Caw, caw. The vulture leading the way followed the arrival of the last girl and flew into the private room, perching on Corporal Kenny's shoulder. "I have been entrusted by Captain Kai Meng to be in charge of your safety during this elite group training. However, there's one thing you must know. If you make a huge mistake and fall into danger, I will not help you fix it. I will only be in charge of handling unexpected dangerous situations. Before you act, please explain Captain Kai Meng's arrangements for your small team." Listening to Corporal Kenny's speech, the fiery-haired Winley hurriedly put down her heavy backpack and found an empty seat beside Han Dong. She hurriedly squeezed in and sat down. At the same time, she took out a small notebook from her backpack, preparing to seriously record down Corporal Kenny's speech. Her bright and spirited eyes were especially serious. Captain Kai Meng does not like to have too many levels. Therefore, this time, he will only choose the 6 most outstanding freshmen to participate in this elite group training. With the 6 of you as a unit, you will form a special small team. The captain's requirements for you are almost the same as the requirements for second-year and third-year students. The details of the group training will be given to you when we arrive at the destination, Stewart Manor. For now, we will only talk about the basic situation within your team. Captain Kai Meng has already appointed a captain and vice-captain for your small team. The captain is Abel Lane. No one in the room had any objections to Abel being the captain. Everyone knew how special Abel was. Vice-captain and chief of staff, Warren Nicholas. HM? The Mohawk Crow immediately looked over with a puzzled expression. As for the red-haired, when Lee, who was seriously taking notes, she looked around. Because she was the last one, she did not know who this name corresponded to. The magic apprentice Demps, sitting in the corner, had a calm expression, as if he had no objections to this arrangement. Who was the vice-captain? Winley looked back and forth with a puzzled expression. Of the freshmen sitting here, she knew 2 of them. The first was the captain, Hunter B. Stable. The second was the British young man, Demps Martin. She originally thought that Demps would be the vice-captain. Who knew that it would be a stranger she did not know? At this moment, Han Dong gently raised his hand. Winley was puzzled. She turned her head and stared at the boy who was a size smaller than her. She sized him up from head to toe, but couldn't find anything special about him. At this moment, the person in charge, Kenny, continued, I'll leave it to the two captains to decide on the specific positions in the team. I'll give you 10 minutes to complete this process. I'll wait for you at the entrance of the tavern. Once we leave the city, it means that danger is coming. Don't think about chatting in the carriage. If you have time, sleep a little more to replenish your energy. During the training period, sleeping is a luxury. Yes. As Kenny left, Abel Ryan immediately took over everything. A bestial aura overflowed from his body and suppressed the aura of everyone in the room. This is everyone's first time out of the city, so please introduce your abilities to each other so that the vice captain and I can make a simple assignment based on everyone's information. Once we encounter danger, we will be able to provide the best response at the first moment. Why don't I start with myself? I'm majoring in control. Currently, I specialize in Druid and Beast King in the Academy. Compared to the conventional control summoning, I'm better at dealing with various forms of close combat. Currently, I have 3 fate points allocated to control. Wow, Captain, you already have 3 fate points? Winley was surprised. I've been helping Master in a blacksmith room every day. I haven't had the time to go to the Fate Realm. Abel explained with a smile on his face. Before seed destruction, having more fate points will only increase the limit of one's energy. True strength can't be evaluated solely by the fate points allocated. I've already started. Let's go clockwise and introduce everyone one by one. The next person was the hot-tempered youth with a mohawk Dawid, majoring in Crusader, specializing in Berserker. Like the captain, he's good at close combat. He has been allocated 2 fate points. After Dawid's simple introduction, Abel reached out and placed his hand on his shoulder. Dawid once teamed up with me and completed many bounty missions. In a real fight, Dawid isn't inferior to me. He's a natural berserker and can be the main close combat member of the team. It's just that he's a little lacking in terms of endurance. The next person was the British young man in the corner. Demps spoke in standard British English. Demps Martin, majoring in library. Currently, I don't have a confirmed specialization. I know a few spells. Currently, I have 3 fate points allocated. It was still a rather short speech. However, many of the people present had heard of Demp's name. His reputation wasn't much worse than Abel Ryan's. He was known as the young magician of library. Demp's so-called lack of a confirmed specialization meant that he knew all kinds of spells. He definitely didn't just touch on the surface. The next person was Mia. Hello, everyone. My name is Mia Semenovich. Majoring in mysticism, I've chosen to specialize in witchcraft. I specialize in the creation of medicinal herbs and some relatively simple witchcraft, including auxiliary and offensive spells. Mia Semenovich was the student with the highest overall grades in this year's mysticism department. Abel had heard of her before. Furthermore, the creation of medicinal herbs was very important. The team just happened to lack a healer. The second last person was Vice Captain Han Dong. Many people were curious about Han Dong. They were curious as to why Captain Keeman would choose such a mysterious acolyte as his vice captain. Warren Nicholas, mysterious acolyte, specialization in plague and suturing. His perception isn't bad. Combined with his plague transformation, he can also carry out close-range and long-range attacks according to different types of battles. Currently, I have 4 fate points allocated to my main talent. Once this was said, apart from Dimps in the corner who had a calm expression, everyone was shocked. 4 fate points? What kind of concept was that? 90% of second-year knight trainee knights didn't have that many fate points. Furthermore, the fate realm had a cooldown time. For Han Dong to be able to obtain 4 fate points in the early days of school, the problem was obvious. Wow, sitting at the side, when Li, who had yet to introduce herself, opened her mouth wide. She stared blankly at this mysterious youth. Chapter 184. Actually, Han Dong had no intention of hiding the fact that he had already obtained 4 fate points from the beginning. 2 people in the team had already reached 3 fate points. Han Dong, as the vice captain, also needed to establish a certain prestige in advance. In addition, when encountering danger and Han Dong needed to use some special abilities, it would be convenient for him to explain. Wen Li, with a silly look on her face, said while counting with her fingers, "When you just entered the school, it can only be possible to enter the novice space once and the official fate space once." "Nicholas, you got extra points in the fate journey?" "Yes." "Amazing. As expected of the vice captain appointed by Captain Keeman." "Yes. Next, it's my turn." Winley found that she was still sweating. She took out a towel from the side of her backpack, wiped off the sweat on her wheat-colored skin, and introduced herself with a serious face. I may be the worst in the team here. Because I helped out in the blacksmith shop, I never had the chance to go to the real fate space. I only invested 2 points in my main talent. Master also told me not to rush. In addition, I'm not very good at fighting and lack actual combat experience. I usually just forge in the blacksmith shop and be Master's assistant. If you want to talk about what I'm good at, I can help you with temporary polishing of your fate equipment, which is a kind of elementary enchantment. It can increase the basic attributes of the equipment. For this emergency training, I also brought a lot of props that should be able to help everyone. If everyone's equipment is damaged in battle, I can also repair it for everyone at any time. Although Wen Li's introduction was quite bad, but to be able to carry a huge backpack of dozens of pounds and run from the Night Academy to the West Gate on the 2nd floor, this was simply not something an ordinary person could do. Moreover, even if it could be done, no one would waste their stamina like this before leaving the city. On the other hand, Winley Austin, in just a few minutes after arriving at the tavern, besides still sweating a little, she was no longer panting and her stamina had almost recovered. For Winley, such an overload long-distance run was like the most routine warm-up exercise. Even without relying on the little magic eye, Han Dong could see that Wen Li was extraordinary. The elite students sitting there naturally could also see it. All the members were introduced. Next, it was the captain and vice captain's turn to discuss the allocation of positions. Abel had a smile on his face. "Student Nicholas, Commander Keeman has appointed you as the chief of staff. The position of each member will be decided by you first." Yes. In fact, Han Dong already had a certain understanding of each member through the information given by Mia last night. Han Dong crossed his arms and placed them in front of him. Before he gave out the position, there was something he needed to confirm. "Before we distribute the positions, I have something to ask everyone. During the self-introductions, just now, none of you mentioned this matter. In my opinion, this attribute is more important than what abilities you are proficient in. In other words, to what extent could everyone's resistance to pollution reach? It would be best if you could give me a detailed rationality value." Rationality. When applying for the investigation certificate, the new investigator's performance during the assessment period would be evaluated by a rating agency in the Holy City. A special value was used to represent the investigator's pollution tolerance, which was the rationality value. Of course, everyone sitting there was a newcomer. Naturally, no one had taken the investigation certificate, and their rationality value had not been evaluated. Therefore, when they introduced themselves, they did not know how to talk about this matter. Abel was the first to speak. "My tolerance should be relatively high. The beast soul in my body can help me resist. In addition, when David is injured, his rationality value will be in a constant state and will not fall below the line of intellect." Immediately after, the British young man in the corner, Demps, said, "I have a protective measure that can resist the invasion of pollution, but it can only be used on myself. With special goggles, it won't be a big problem to deal with ordinary pollution." When it was Mia's turn, she said proudly, "In the 3 months since I entered the school, I have completed a total of 8 bounty missions with different difficulties and have come into contact with a large number of polluted bodies in the city. Although these guys can't be compared to the life outside the city, my rationality value is still very good. Just this point alone, the witch specially praised me. In addition, this time I specially bought a large number of peace bloom, together with bloodthorn grass, alfalfa, and silver leaves. I can get a kind of medicine that can restore rationality value. This kind of medicine has to be made on the spot to achieve the best effect, so the raw materials are in my bag. Mia's speech immediately attracted the attention of many people. The two mysterious apprentices in the team played a role in the team that could not be ignored. It was the red-haired when Lee's turn again. She stuck out her tongue with an embarrassed expression. I don't know myself. As I said before, I work in a blacksmith room every day and have not even come into contact with the simplest bound emissions. I have only read about the basic knowledge of pollution in books. The temporary investigation certificate this time was also applied for by my master. I will do my best to help everyone. If there is anything I do not do well, I hope everyone can forgive me. I will try my best not to be a burden. Since the assignment this time was decided by Han Dong, he did not explain his rationality value situation. He immediately wrote down the assignment of the 6 people in the team on the paper. Abel Lane, Auxiliary Combat, Auxiliary Investigation, Warren Nicholas, Investigator, Demps Martin, Ranged Mage, Do, Abdul Rahman, Close Combatant, Winley Austin, Freelancer, Mia Seminovich, Medic and Auxiliary Ranged Mage. What does freelancer mean? Freelancer means that when the team is on the move or encounters an unexpected situation, you can do whatever you want, unless I or the captain give a special order. Isn't that a bit inappropriate? At this time, Captain Abel, who was sitting opposite them, showed an affirmative smile and stood up from his seat. Let's follow Nicholas' assignment. Everyone, let's go. Senior Vulture should have already prepared the carriage to leave the city. A luxurious carriage made of copper alloy was parked in front of the tavern. The carriage was pulled by 4 horses that were completely made of metal. The hooves and legs of the horses were embedded with super-precision steam pistons. It could pull the team of 6 forward and could reach a maximum speed of 80 kilometers per hour. At the same time, the mighty Behemoth Knight's wild force arrived. The Titan Gate slowly opened, officially leaving the city. Chapter 185. Due to Captain Kai Meng's huge body, his mount was also huge. If Kai Meng wanted to leave the city, it would alert everyone. Basically, it meant that the Night Order would leave the city to attack a nest of hybrid demons, or prepare to attack a city occupied by hybrid demons. Due to the secrecy of this operation, Kai Meng did not join the team. Commander Kai Meng did not participate in the training this time. The leader was someone else. He was more suitable to lead the apprentice knights out of the city. It was time. The members of Kai Meng's Night Order gathered at the city gate and surrounded the carriages with the apprentice knights. They wanted to ensure the safety of the group of young people before they arrived at the camp. Mia purposely got close to Han Dong in the carriage and pointed at the knights outside the window. Wow, Behemoth Knights, wild troops. The strongest troops in the forest are the vanguard of the 13 Night Orders. Under the leadership of Captain Kai Meng, this troop will become the most ferocious group of beasts in the Holy City. They can instantly devour and tear apart the enemy. Currently, they are only a part of the Behemoth Knights, but they are more than enough to escort us. They are so wild. The members of the Behemoth Knights were obviously different from the usual knights who rode horses, equipped with swords and shields and war armor. They were mostly dressed in beast skins, and their appearance and armor were very rough and violent. The biggest difference was their beast mounts. Giant wolves, grizzly bears, lions, black panthers, mountain goats, and so on. If one wanted to join the Behemoth Knights, one of the basic requirements was to ride a strong beast as a mount that symbolized one's identity and ability. However, among these ferocious and violent beasts, there was a unique mount. Its owner was the leader of this operation, the vice leader of Kai Meng's Night Order, Sonam Hydra. She was a slender woman with a snake head and eyebrow print. She had black hair that reached her waist. From the scarf, nose stud, and clothes that revealed her waist, she seemed to be from India. Her mount was a black python that was 13 meters long. If one looked closely, they would notice that this vice leader Hydra had a pair of terrifying snake eyes. Her pale yellow eyes and sharp pupils made one's hair stand on end when she glanced at them. Hydra raised an arm with a tattoo of 9 snakes intertwining on it. A sharp voice traveled into the ears of every member gathered at the west gate. Everyone, listen to my orders. Wear goggles. Put on your protective gear. We are about to leave the city. In the large carriages where the 6 rookies were, everyone was doing something. Mia first took out a black cloth. As the spell spread on the surface of the black cloth, it turned into a black sorcerer's robe that covered her entire body. At the same time, she put on a sorcerer's hat. Since the right half of Mia's face was covered by a mask, she only needed to wear a single copper goggle to cover her left eye. The berserker, Dao, and the blacksmith, Wen Li, only put on the goggles they carried with them and didn't do anything else. Captain Abel's aura changed when he put on a pair of simple white goggles. In Han Dong's special vision, he could see that Abel's aura was changing slightly. The white-colored aura would condense into the image of an owl, which seemed to have greatly improved its alertness. Owl's protection. When activated, it increases the individual's alertness and reduces the probability of being affected by mental pollution. Among the 6 rookies, the one with the easiest movements was Dempsmartin. The young magician, who was called the young magician, just gently touched his copper-rimmed glasses with his finger. As a 7-colored luster flashed on the glasses, the goggles mode was activated. As for Han Dong, he was still the same as before. After touching the crow mark on the back of his hand, a burst of black feathers fluttered and the Dr. Crow outfit covered his whole body. Crow, is it the prophet? No wonder he's so powerful, wow. Blacksmith Wen Li, who was already interested in the vice captain, suddenly became even more interested. However, while staring at Mia, who was in the same sect as Han Dong and had a closer relationship, Wen Li temporarily dismissed the idea of chatting with the vice captain. Let's talk about it when we reach the camp. If he's really the prophet's student, according to Master, we can try to become good friends with him. In the future, if we can enter the gate of destiny with the prophet's student, the probability of death will be greatly reduced. The gate opened, and the beasts rushed. Everyone left the city. The 6 rookies' metal carriage was at the end of the line, and a ferocious vulture stood on top of the carriage. It was strange. Just as the carriage passed through the city gate, a strange homecoming arose in Han Dong's heart. Han Dong didn't feel the slightest discomfort in the never-ending night environment outside the city. Instead, he was in a state of high spirits. Due to the appearance of the hybrid demons, darkness was introduced to the world. As early as 200 years ago, the world was shrouded in a thick layer of fog, and the sun could no longer shine directly on the ground. The world officially entered the Dark Age. Only the Holy City and a few other world city-states were not affected by the fog and had the normal day and night changes. Once they left the city, they would fall into endless darkness, and all mysterious investigations would be carried out in the darkness. All kinds of plants in the world had undergone genetic changes under the influence of the fog. They no longer photosynthesized. Instead, a large number of miniature suckers were derived from the bark and the surface of the leaves. Through these suckers, they sucked the fog in the air, replenished the vitality energy, and allowed all kinds of plants to thrive. Because the basic structure didn't change much, after a series of intracellular reactions, the plants that absorbed the fog would also release oxygen. The oxygen content in the air didn't change. However, as the plants absorbed the fog for a long time, it led to a huge change in their appearance. The twisted shape was only the most basic change of the plants. Some larger trees would form a groove structure on the surface of the trunk, building a terrifying black face. Not only did it look terrifying, but there were a large number of miniature suckers inside these grooves. Small animals that approached would be preyed and turned into nutrients for the trees. Moreover, plants that have absorbed enough nutrients may even appear to be semi-activated. They could perform simple twisting and winding activities. They would show a certain degree of aggression towards living things that approached them. While the carriage was running in the Gaines forest, they could occasionally see some twisting, huge black shadows in the forest. They were these semi-activated plants. Coupled with the terrifying tree faces, It would make newcomers who left the city for the first time shudder. Ah, so scary. Taking this opportunity, Mia pretended to be trembling with fear. She hugged Han Dong tightly and even leaned her head on his shoulder. Don't make me say get out. Sit tight. Chapter 186. Due to the treacherous and obstructive nature of the forest road, the carriage was unable to maintain its maximum speed throughout the journey. It was estimated that it would take 2 hours to reach the camp. A familiar caw of crows came from outside the window. With the help of Little Magic Eye, Han Dong was able to locate a human-faced tree 50 meters away. There was a crowman standing at the end of the branch. It had 2 large crow heads, but its lower body was completely humanoid. It was quietly squatting on the branch. There were also crow wings on its back, and a few tentacles were faintly floating between the feathers. This crowman did not seem to have any intention of attacking, nor did it make any sounds to call for its companions. It just quietly watched the mighty human troop pass by in front of it. At this time, as the captain, Abel began to explain, this is a common crowman in the Gaines Forest. Most of them are neutral. As long as you don't actively disturb them, they won't have any intention of attacking. A double-headed crowman like this is relatively rare. A double-headed crowman? For some reason, Han Dong looked at the crowman. Especially when the two looked at each other, he faintly felt that through Little Magic Eye and Han Dong's own crow characteristics, it seemed that there was a subtle connection between himself and the crowman. Along the way, the convoy also passed through many strange places in the Gaines Forest. One of the larger lakes in the forest left a deep impression on Han Dong. Mermaids were swimming in the lake that was glowing in rainbow colors. According to normal aesthetic standards, she was indeed very beautiful. She had a beautiful upper body and a fishtail with fish scales on her lower body. There were about 20 of them, and they were playing around in the lake. When these mermaids found that the convoy deliberately bypassed the lake, the laughing sisters immediately revealed a ferocious expression and immediately swam ashore. The moment they came into contact with the land, their originally beautiful skin immediately changed. Their spines cracked, and several long legs for crawling grew out. They turned into an amphibian and chased after the carriage. Unfortunately, their speed could not match the high-speed carriage. In the end, they could only show a disappointed expression and return to the lake. They turned into beautiful mermaids and played around, waiting for the next batch of prey to arrive. Han Dong threw out a question. Why? Why would these mutated life forms that were affected by the hybrid demons become human-like instead of indescribable mutants? Abel explained simply, there were too many people who died because of the Dark Age. There should be more than 1 million skeletons buried under the Gain Forest alone. The anger, fear, unwillingness, and other emotions of the deceased affected an area. In the process of wild monsters being distorted by the fog, they were also affected by the human emotions. That's why some of the monsters in the wild have a human-like transformation. Thank you. This time, the deputy commander of the Night Regiment will lead the team secretly. Maybe we can reach the camp unimpeded. It wasn't long after Abel said this. The fog in the forest thickened in a short time. The density of the fog actually suppressed the range of the kerosene lamps hanging outside the carriage to within 5 meters. It was already impossible to continue forward in this thick fog. Stop the car. The carriages were getting closer to each other. At the same time, the members of the Behemoth Night Regiment all gathered to the center, narrowing the defense line and surrounding the carriages to ensure the safety of the trainee knights in the carriages. All kinds of beasts and mounts kept growling. There was a dangerous life form approaching in the fog. At this moment, vultures standing on the roof of the carriage spoke. You young ones stay in the carriage. If you encounter any trouble on the way, the Night Regiment will quickly solve it. However, you better be prepared. Maybe something unexpected will happen. Maybe some long-range attacks will directly penetrate the defense line and attack the carriage you are in. Okay. The blacksmith missed when Lee was the most nervous. For a moment, She actually held the forging hammer in her backpack tightly in her hand. The muscle lines on her arms were obvious. Mia took this opportunity and pretended to be very scared. She tried to bury her head in Han Dong's shoulder. The first thing I want is to stop pretending. If you interfere with my actions, I will immediately terminate the temporary cooperation between us. You are so annoying. Mia could only let go of her hand. Or else, she might really be secretly killed by Han Dong during the upcoming training. At this moment, Han Dong, who was observing carefully by the window, muttered, "Something is coming." The thing that appeared from a thick fog was a skeleton. It was very different from the skeleton soldiers in the general concept. These skeletons were not only made up of empty skeletons. Moreover, they did not only move on foot. Many of them crawled, wriggled, and even floated in the air. In the witch's basic teaching, these resurrected skeletons were called evil filth. Corpses and skeletons were low-level existences due to the influence of the fog for a long time. Although they were low-level existences, there were a lot of them. Every bone could give birth to an evil skeleton. For example, in the Gain Forest where millions of people were buried, as long as there was a leader, these evil filth could form a mighty army. What kind of skeletons are these? The joints of the bones were connected by a black, sticky substance. There was a black egg with a single eye in the skeleton's body. It was connected to the skeleton by a black filament, causing the egg to hang in the center of the skeleton. There were also 2 black eyeballs that were stuffed in the eye sockets of the skull, providing night vision. Other than the ordinary skeleton walker, there was also a type of skeleton that was covered in rags and floating in the air. There was a strange black circle mark on the top of the skeleton's head, which seemed to be able to cast some kind of spell. There were also some that did not have the shape of a skeleton at all. Their bodies were just a pile of mud, with only a skull embedded on the surface, which could release a strong, corrosive substance. "Hold the line, kill," Vice Captain Hydra ordered. All the knights maintained the formation of a turtle and took out their weapons. Once the skeletons got close, they would quickly kill them. Hydra rode on the black python alone and went deep into the fog to find the mastermind behind this ambush. Facing these low-level existences, the knights did not expend any effort to fight. It was just that these evil skeletons were endless. Suddenly, a black sticky egg flew out from the fog. It passed through the knights who were fighting and stuck to the window of the carriage that Han Dong and the others were in. Buzz! The egg used the resonance effect to shatter the thick window that was comparable to bulletproof glass. The soft egg landed on the floor of the carriage. The smell of pollution immediately spread in the carriage. Chapter 187. The interior of the luxurious carriage that the newcomers were in was more than 20 square meters. It was spacious and comfortable for 6 people to sit inside. There was even a large space for movement in the aisle in the middle. As a result, after this strange egg fell into the carriage, there was enough space for it to act. If there was even a slight delay, it would lead to a pollution disaster. The vulture standing on the roof of the carriage was unable to stop the egg from entering the carriage due to the suddenness of the incident. It immediately sent a message to its owner. The second captain of the Behemoth Knights, Kinney, was currently assisting in the battle not far away. When he heard the urgent news from the vulture, he immediately turned into a flash and rushed back to the carriage with a scimitar in hand. This egg was not a small thing. It was a heart of evil that had developed a certain level of consciousness. It had a strong pollution power. It was in the fog that someone had secretly aimed at the group of weaklings in the carriage and found a gap to throw such a heart in. Once the pollution spread, it would cause all the weaklings to be infected, and this human army would be disintegrated from the inside. This meant that these filth also had a certain level of intelligence. If this group of newcomers is contaminated, the following training will be troublesome. Kinney, who had arrived at the first moment, opened the carriage door and was about to quickly kill the heart of evil inside. The situation in the carriage stunned him. The so-called heart of evil had already been smashed to pieces by the hammer, and the pollution residue was frozen by various small ice cubes. All of this came from the cooperation of blacksmith Wen Li and magician Demps. Wen Li, who had been holding the hammer the entire time because she was nervous. The moment the egg fell into the carriage, she did not think too much and directly smashed down with the hammer. A kind of shell-breaking sound could be heard coming from inside the egg. It was as if the protective layer could not withstand this huge force at all. The egg was smashed to pieces, and even a dent was made in the thick metal floor of the carriage. The broken and scattered remnants of the egg were also polluting. However, just as these broken remnants were about to release the polluting aura, Demps had already flipped to a certain page in the special metal magic book in his hand in advance. Cold air escaped from the pages and instantly froze these remnants. The dangerous situation was resolved. This group of newcomers have good quality. What Second Captain Kenny was concerned about was not the cold air that froze the pollution. Instead, he was very concerned about the pit left by the hammer on the floor of the carriage. The locks on the carriages used to leave the city were made of a special alloy with 50% copper content. Furthermore, there was also a magical spell formation installed on the inner board, which was enough to withstand the attacks and collisions of some powerful foreign objects on the carriage, ensuring the safety of the passengers. Not to mention novice knights. Even some official knights would have to spend a lot of effort to destroy the carriage. When this blacksmith Wen Li smashed the evil heart with her hammer, she actually left a crater on the floor of the carriage. Her strength had reached the level of a crusader. All of you continue to stay in the carriage. Vice Captain Hydra has already set off. With her earth sense ability, she'll be able to find the mastermind behind these evil things very soon. Yes, Corporal Kenny. As expected, in less than 10 minutes, the fog in the forest began to dissipate. The tide of evil skeletons also slowly retreated back into the forest, returning to where they should be. In the depths of the forest, a giant python slithered out. Vice Captain Hydra, who was riding on the giant python, was holding a skull that emitted a silver metallic luster. There were also some regular round dots on the skull. Captain Abel began to explain to everyone, it should be a kind of high-level, evil filth. Due to the high concentration of the evil aura in the burial ground and the uniqueness of the bones, it might have been a capable person when it was alive. Under the nourishment of the high concentration of evil aura, it was able to give birth to such a high-level evil filth. If we want to deal with it, it will be quite difficult. From what we encountered, this forest area should be controlled by it. Han Dong nodded. Sure enough, even if it's classified as low-level, there are still strong and weak ones inside. Abel commented on the incident just now. Speaking of which, it's all thanks to Demp's timely intervention. Once the filth spreads, it will affect any of us, and our following actions will be hindered. Wen Li, adjust your mentality a little and relax a little. I'm sorry. I was too nervous. Wen Li clearly realized that she was too reckless, crushing the egg with a hammer and causing the fragments to scatter. Unexpectedly, Han Dong put in a good word for Wen Li. You did very well. If we waited for another second, a large number of evil eyes would have opened on the surface of the egg, causing visual pollution to all of us. Moreover, I can see that the egg has a protective layer set up inside, so it shouldn't be easy to kill it. I didn't expect that you would smash it into pieces with a hammer. Ah, is that really the case? Thank you, Vice Captain. Wen Li was very happy. After making a silly smile at Han Dong, she sat back in her seat. Abel suddenly said, Nicholas, you can see through the structure of this kind of filthy egg. Yes. The evil filth egg just now has a total of 3 layers. The outer protective layer, the middle filth layer, and the inner core layer. The moment it landed on the ground, the inner core was immediately activated, and a large amount of filth leaked out from the inside, trying to express itself in the form of eyes on the outer layer. Amazing! As the grandson of Commander Kai Meng, Abel naturally had some special treatment in his daily life. When the Behemoth Knight Regiment carried out some small-scale activities outside the city, the commander would ask the team to bring along his gifted eldest grandson. He had secretly followed the behemoth Knight Regiment out of the city many times, and among the newcomers, he could be considered as experienced and knowledgeable. However, Abel had never heard of anyone who could see through the structure of life outside the city at a glance. The secret of this Crow student was more terrifying than he had expected. The convoy continued to move forward. The latter part of the journey was smooth and unobstructed. They had arrived at the camp, Stewart Manor. Although it was called a manor, it looked more like a small town. There were all kinds of strange-looking scarecrows in the overgrown fields. The streets paved with rubble connected the fields to the town. The small town included in the manor abandoned houses, taverns, blacksmiths, monasteries, and other buildings. Through this series of dilapidated buildings, one could see the bustling scene of this small town in the past. This showed that before the Age of Darkness, there were many people under the protection of the great Lord Stewart, living a good life of self-sufficiency. Following the stone path, they went around a graveyard and stepped onto a hill. A dark castle that belonged to the great Lord Stewart stood on top of the hill. Chapter 188. Let's go back to a week ago. Stewart Great Manor, Captain Kamon Ryan, Deputy Captain Sonam Hydra, the 3 captains of the Knight Regiment, and a complete clone of the Clockbearer arrived together. They conducted a comprehensive investigation of the manor. That's right, the elite training corresponded to the outstanding juniors in the academy. They were the important pillars of the Holy City's future. The purpose of the training was to let them familiarize themselves with the environment outside the city, hone their skills, and learn how to fight with the creatures outside the city. They also learned how to move forward in the dark. During the process, they had to avoid any unexpected dangers. It was not as simple as bringing the selected apprentice knights to an area outside the city and letting them live there for a period of time. There was a very detailed plan and design for the elite training. Because there were too many unknown variables outside the city, the apprentice knights were not enough to deal with it. The Knight Regiment in charge of the training needed to conduct a detailed investigation of the camp in advance. All the high-level beings in the area were erased. Through planning, layout, and even repairing and building some important facilities, they would arrange it into a suitable camp for the apprentice knights. At the same time, some members of the Knight Regiment would also act as NPC to provide basic missions during the training period. They would issue missions related to the area to the students. After completing them, they could submit them and calculate their points. The quality and quantity of missions completed would determine the final results of the training. At the very least, they would need to reach past to get the training certificate. The Holy City had a history of more than 100 years. In the eyes of the important figures in the Parliament, the Church, the royal family, and the Knight Regiment, it was very necessary to carry out the elite training in advance. Therefore, a systematic training process had long been formulated. Camp planning, mission setting, night watchers arrangements, points ranking system, and in-depth exploration. As long as a team touched and completed the core mission at the deepest level of the area, the training would come to an end. All members would return to the Holy City, and the person in charge of the Knight Regiment would report the completion of the training to the Parliament. The student teams that received different evaluations would be commended. The teams that performed particularly well would also receive special rewards and the attention of the higher-ups. Vice Leader Hydra stared at the strange manor and inquired. Signs of hybrid demon activity have been found in the Stewart Manor many times. However, including the last time when the Black Rose Knights investigated the area, they also found traces of hybrid demons in the castle. However, they could not find the main body of the hybrid demon. Wouldn't it be too difficult to choose a camp this time? If we encounter hybrid demons during the training period, there will be a large number of casualties. Commander Kai Meng sat on the ground, rubbing his fangs with one hand as he said with certainty, "Then we'll reduce the selection rate of the lower grade students. I'll personally apply to the council to change the way the qualifiers are conducted. I'll personally select the students. Increase the number of night watchers during the training period. The few of you in charge will use detection or servant control to strengthen the monitoring and protection of each student team. Once you sense the aura of the hybrid demons, immediately intervene. Yes, Hydra didn't dare to say much about the leader's opinion. Clock Creator, do you have any objections? This complete clone of the Timekeeper represented the council panel, and the purpose of this visit was to check whether the selection of the camp met the standard of the training. The hourglass wearing the vortex mask was still observing the camp. He waited for 3 minutes before answering Kamen's question. If we want to use this place as a camp, we need to limit the number of freshmen to 8. Only the top freshmen can train in this environment. In addition, your security must be done well. If there are serious casualties, it will directly affect your Night Order supply of resources and the next comprehensive index evaluation. Haha, that's good. I also have a suggestion. I hope that the selected freshman apprentice knights will be treated differently from the rest of the group and give them a special training opportunity. Your eldest grandson is also among the freshmen, right? The clock creator pointed out the key point. Commander Kai Ming didn't hide it, haha. That's right. Abel is indeed in this batch of freshmen. This is his first time out of the city for training, so I want to give him a different test. Also, I heard that there are many talented freshmen in this batch. It's good to take this opportunity to let them cooperate in advance. Abel will definitely become the light of hope of the Holy City in the future, so I think it's necessary. Do you have a detailed plan? I need to review it. Deputy Captain Hydra handed over a special squad plan to him. Oh, you only want to separate them? That's fine. Just as you said, there's a good seedling in this batch of freshmen. It must be my family's Abel, right? I haven't officially met Commander Keeman's eldest grandson, so I can't comment. Then who is the good seedling you mentioned? The clock creator didn't answer this question. At the same time, he handed the plan back to Keeman, which meant that he acknowledged this special squad plan. The timeline returned to the present. The carriage carrying the apprentice knights stopped at the beginning of the farmland stone road, although there were only 6 freshmen who were selected. However, there were still many second-year and third-year apprentice knights who passed Commander Keeman's assessment. A total of 74 apprentice knights participated in the elite training. Professionals arranged the horses properly, and all of them walked into the miniature town area in the manor, except for Vice Captain Hydra and Second Captain Kenny. The rest of the members of the Night Order went to the various areas of the manor according to the predetermined role arrangement and acted as the corresponding NPC. They also carried out a detailed inspection and layout of the areas they were responsible for. Next, I will announce the relevant rules of this elite training. Just like the previous training, it will adopt the mission point system. Before the start of the training, you will need to form your own team. The number of people in your team cannot be more than 5. After that, you will hand in the team list to me. The members of the Behemoth Night Order will be scattered in various areas of the camp and take on different roles. The basic roles will directly provide you with the relevant basic missions. Some public missions will also be posted on the bulletin board. As for the intermediate, advanced, or special missions, you will only be able to accept or trigger them after meeting certain conditions, such as obtaining a special item in the manor or killing a sufficient number of low-ranked otherworldlings. The most important core mission will not be clearly marked. When you have completed enough missions and accumulated enough points, you will then be able to use the clues you have obtained and come into contact with the essence of Stuart Manor through your own deductions. The Night Watchers will naturally find you and provide you with clues related to the core mission. When a certain team has resolved the final matter in the manor, this training will end. Finally, the final evaluation results will be given based on the points your team has obtained. During the training, I suggest that you occupy an abandoned building in the town and set up the relevant seals and traps to prevent foreign creatures from invading while you are resting. When occupying the building, there are 2 points you need to pay attention to. First, only one team is allowed to live in a building. Mixed use is not allowed. Second, you are not allowed to occupy the building where the NPC is located. The number of buildings may not be enough. For the extra teams, please be prepared to camp in the fields. Chapter 189. After all, the miniature town was only attached to the manor. There weren't many buildings, and with the two hard rules, a portion of the small teams would definitely sleep in the wild. Generally speaking, the training would last for more than a week, so sleep was a must. The risk of sleeping in the wild was self-evident. The Behemoth Knight Regiment wanted this effect. They wanted these new knights to come into contact with all kinds of random and sudden situations in advance. Once the teams were allocated, the training would officially begin, and a fight over the residences would be unavoidable. The following 4 points are the prohibitions and restrictions of the training. 1. You are prohibited from leaving the Stuart Manor during the training period. 2. You are prohibited from seriously injuring or causing the death of your companions. 3. You are prohibited from ignoring the arrangements of your small teams and acting independently. 4. You are prohibited from acting as small factions between your small teams. Every team must be independent. If you violate these 4 prohibitions, you will be directly disqualified. Serious violators will be severely punished. You are all elites chosen by Captain Keeman, so I won't go into the details. Just do what you are supposed to do and complete the training seriously. Don't play any tricks in private. I will give you 10 minutes to form your own team. The 6 selected freshmen will form their own team and don't need to participate. Once all the small teams have been formed and have been confirmed by me, the training will officially begin. While the senior apprentice knights were free to form their own teams. The 6 freshmen were gathered together by Vulture Kenny. Your requirements are the same as the seniors. Other than me secretly observing you, you will not receive any special attention. However, I will warn you in advance. You must follow the requirements of the mission and head to the corresponding area. Don't think about going deep into unknown hidden areas. As long as it's caused by your own mistakes, I won't deal with it. Understood. Corporal Kinney, please rest assured. Also, you must try your best to obtain a small town building for the housing problem. This will be of great help to the subsequent training. The difficulty of this training will be higher than the previous ones. You must find a way to obtain enough points to pass on a stable foundation. Captain Keeman has already said that as long as you can pass, you will at least receive a good evaluation. As for the most difficult core mission, it involves the secret of the Great Lord of Stuart. Its difficulty is something you will not be able to achieve. Let the most outstanding third-year students complete it. Just do what you're supposed to do. Although Abel agreed verbally, he was unwilling in his heart. If he was able to touch upon the origin of the Stuart Manor, he would definitely delve deeper. At least from Abel's observation, the strength of the 6 people in the team was pretty good. It was better than he had expected. Passing was enough? No. What Abel wanted was to obtain an excellent evaluation through his own strength. The 10-minute division ended. Vice Leader Hydra's voice echoed in every student's ears. The Stuart Great Manor elite training has officially begun. Take out your courage and search for the truth buried deep within the manor, amidst the endless fear and darkness. As soon as these words were spoken, all the members moved out to fight for the residents. I'm going to look for a place to stay. Just follow me. A white shadow flickered as Abel dived and jumped, quickly climbing to the top of the town's buildings. He quickly moved from one building to the next, preparing to settle down in a building closer to the castle. In terms of speed, Abel wasn't any slower than the sophomores and juniors. Let's go. Han Dong led the other members of the team and moved quickly. As a new team, it was very easy for them to be targeted. The prohibition only forbade them from seriously injuring or killing their companions. It didn't completely forbid them from fighting amongst themselves. Once a dispute occurs over the residents, a conflict would definitely erupt. After all, the choice of residents would affect the results of the training to a certain extent. Following Abel's aura, they arrived at a 2-story building that was still in good condition. The doors and windows were all broken, and there were many cracks on the walls. Follow-up repairs were necessary. There are others, 4 of them. The moment Han Dong stepped into the building, he immediately noticed the footprints on the ground. When he reached the 2nd floor, he discovered a small team of 4 surrounding Abel. First come, first served. Seniors, you should understand this principle, right? Abel didn't have the slightest bit of respect in his words. This was because this group of people already had the intention of seizing the residence. The leader of the other party was a crusader who was close to 2 meters tall and wore thick brass armor. He carried a huge shield and a double-edged axe on his back. His entire body emitted a rather strong aura. He seemed to be a third-year student. He completely didn't care about this group of freshmen who had just entered the school. In his opinion, this building that was in good condition and close to the ancient castle was an excellent place. This group of freshmen simply didn't deserve such a good residence. Moreover, they had already spent some time here. If they wanted to find another residence, it would be a bit too late. Hurry up and leave. This isn't a place where freshmen like you should stay. If you don't leave, we will have to force you out. My name is Johnny Stephen. I have already reached the seed-breaking stage. I hope you know your limits. Abel didn't care at all. The seed-breaking stage. Only 5 fate points are allocated. As long as the seed hasn't sprouted, senior is the same as us, still in the initial stage. I think it's better for you seniors to leave. A brat who just entered the school not long ago. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Johnny was a meat shield type warrior. This kind of huge body also gave him great strength. He directly aimed his axe at Abel's shoulder, intending to cut off this arrogant freshman's arm. When the time came, the team's doctor would help him reattach it. Wong. The chopping axe only left an afterimage in its wake. He can really escape. Sensing Abel's aura behind him, he circled around. Johnny didn't make any movement to stop his attack. He held his axe and directly spun it horizontally, sweeping it behind him. Only a clang was heard. A scene that shocked everyone appeared. Because Abel had dodged the attack, when the axe swung towards him, he had already jumped up in advance, using his beast claws to fix himself on the ceiling. However, this Johnny's attack was blocked by another person. Senior, since our captain arrived first. What you did was a bit too much. Blacksmith Winley had a fuming look. She used her right hand to grab the incoming axe, forcibly stopping this third-year senior's attack. In terms of strength, she actually slightly suppressed the opponent. This scene not only stunned the other third-year students, Han Dong and the other freshmen were also completely shocked. Chapter 190. Johnny Stephen, 1, 98 meters in height, 170 kilograms in weight, specializes in defense, which means he is a pure meat shield. Among the third-year students, Johnny was known as the Rock Fortress. Similar to the rules in some games, such a pure meat shield was very likable and needed by all kinds of teams. With Johnny's presence, the other teammates could freely attack without restraint. This time, Johnny was the leader of a 4-person team. The members of the team were Archer, Michelle Case, Pyromancer, Leopold Henry, and Clergy Mage Hepburn Lawrence. Their overall level was above average among the third-year students. Having been in the Knight Academy for more than 2 years, they were indeed qualified to look down on the freshmen who had just entered the academy, but this group of freshmen was different. This, catching the blade with bare hands. Blacksmith Winley directly grabbed the blade of the axe with her right hand and forcibly stopped the swing. Johnny, let's go. It's not too late to go to the periphery now. Leopold Henry, who had a pair of red eyebrows in the team, glanced at the magician, dimps among the freshmen, and showed an uncomfortable expression. At the same time, squeak, squeak, squeak. In the small birdcage hanging on the waist of Archer, Michelle Case, a rainbow parrot kept making warning calls. The archer wore a hood to cover her face. Such a call made the archer immediately look at the group of freshmen behind her. Her gaze stopped on Han Dong, who was wearing a crow costume. This archer was not from machinery, but she majored in control. Currently, she had obtained 5 fate points and had the unique Beast Alert ability. During the exchange of glances with the freshman dressed as Dr. Crow, the archer seemed to have caught a glimpse of something terrifying. So much so that her ears immediately perked up. Let's go. This was not the first time the 4-person team worked together, and everyone in the team had equal status. After the two of them requested to give up the fight for the residents, they quickly reached an agreement and immediately jumped out of the window and left. When Johnny, who was wearing a giant armor, landed, he made a dull sound and felt the ground tremble slightly. He unwillingly followed the team to the other side of the town and tried to occupy a room inside the residence. Captain Abel's face was filled with shock. What terrifying power! And after Abel landed from the roof, he immediately grabbed Wen Li's right hand, which she used to block the axe. True enough, Wen Li's palm was unscathed, with only a faint trace of the axe's blade. Your hand. This is a private secret. Master didn't let me tell anyone. My hand is fine, even in the calciner. What about the other body parts? The other parts are slightly worse. Amazing. For a moment, Abel felt that he had one more competitor on his path of growth. He revealed a joyful smile that came from the bottom of his heart. Abel began to assign tasks to everyone. Enough. This is our residence. I'll have to trouble Miss Wen Li to cooperate with Demps to repair the doors, windows, and cracks in the building. Nicholas, you and Miss Mia should know how to set up barriers, right? You must set up a total of 2 layers of barriers to ensure safety. I understand. Leave it to me. Mia immediately raised her hand. Thus, the important residence was decided, according to the quality and geographical location of the residence. Overall, the residence that Captain Abel found could be ranked in the top 5 among all the Apprentice Night teams. It was a good start. Why do we have to leave? They're just a group of gifted newcomers. If we really fight, we can suppress them with a little effort. In terms of actual combat experience, this group of newcomers is definitely weaker. Johnny's team was racing against time. Finally, they found a residence near the edge of the town on the other side. But this meat shield, Johnny, had a look of dissatisfaction. The pyromancer, Leopold, explained first. Demps Martin, the freshman with the highest evaluation from Miss Hera. The whole library has heard of this kid's name. I don't want to get into trouble. If I annoy Miss Hera, my future studies may be hindered. Leo, you're still as selfish as ever. Don't we, third-year students, care about our reputation? At this moment, the team's archer, Michelle, took off her hood, revealing a pair of furry beast ears. She specialized in druidic studies, plus the cat-type orc blood she exchanged in the Destiny realm and the physical changes after combining with her body. Other than the beast ears and a pair of green crystal eyes, everything else was the same as a human's. Big guy, this group of newcomers is not to be trifled with. There's an alien in their team. Because of his existence, my little Willises kept sending out warnings of danger. It's that student wearing a crow costume. Crow costume? Oh, there seems to be such a person. Johnny only glanced at Han Dong and didn't pay too much attention to him. Is he really that powerful? Johnny didn't quite believe it, but Johnny was very clear that Michelle's parrot pet sense of danger was never wrong. Yes, it can't be wrong. I used green crystal eyes once and could barely see through his crow coat. The inside was a turbid mess, as if there was a terrifying eye looking at me. No, it should be staring at all of our movements. Once the battle starts, this person will attack instantly. Also, big guy, the white-haired kid you're facing seems to be what? Seems to be Captain Kai Meng's most beloved eldest grandson, the only genius who got full marks in this year's entrance exam. The rumored 100 Beast body. Why didn't you say so earlier? Johnny didn't pay much attention to the news of the newcomers. But when he thought of the oppressive feeling he felt when he faced Captain Kai Meng in the arena a few days ago, he shivered in fear. Michelle pursed her lips and said, I just remembered it too. That white-haired kid is a very low-key genius. Even I only heard that Captain Kai Meng's eldest grandson came to the school to study, but I don't know what he looks like. What kind of monsters are these newcomers? Luckily, they didn't fight. It's all thanks to my little Willis who sensed the danger. All right, let's tidy up and set up a barrier around the house, then get ready to move. Next time you meet these newcomers, big guy, remember to apologize. I even suspect that the mysterious student who made me feel danger is the student of the Crow Prophet. Prophet. After hearing this name, Johnny was so scared that he took out a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped the sweat on his forehead. He was quite powerful to offend so many big shots at once. Michelle took out a small snack from her pocket and passed it to little Willis, who was at her waist. The small episode passed. With the help of everyone, the newcomers had completed the repairs of their house. The one who contributed the most was the blacksmith, Wenli. "How many things did you bring?" Even Abel was surprised. Wenli used the materials in her backpack to repair the doors and windows and replace them with metal materials. The cracks in the walls were also reinforced with metal plates. However, this only used a portion of her materials. Wenli scratched her head. Master, help me stuff it in. It should be enough for us to use during the training period." "Not bad. Let's go. Let's go and receive the first basic mission." "Wait." Han Dong, who was in one of the rooms, called back the group of people who were about to go out. Chapter 191. Although this was Han Dong's first time participating in the training, he might not understand many of the hidden rules. However, from Deputy Leader Hydra's introduction of the rules, the NPC knights scattered around the manor would only provide some of the most basic missions, and the points they could obtain were relatively few. Of course, the team also had to rely on this series of basic missions to slowly touch the surface secrets of the manor and gradually delve deeper. If they wanted to touch the intermediate, high-level hidden missions, or the most crucial core mission, they would need to complete a large number of prerequisite missions or find some kind of item or clue on their own. Variability and randomness were explored from shallow to deep, layer by layer. Han Dong could easily deduce that the Knight Legion had been to the Stuart Manor a long time ago. They spent a lot of effort to transform this place into a systematic camp to reduce the difficulty of apprentice knights living outside the city to a certain extent, and to assist the players in fully exploring the manor. In order to nurture the next generation, the Holy City had put in a lot of effort. Inside the residence, the task of setting up the barrier was handed over to Mia. As a result, the exterior of the building was covered with spider webs, adding a sense of strangeness and eeriness to the originally dilapidated foundation. There were even small spiders crawling on the surface of the outer wall. Once an outsider approached, these spiders would take the initiative to attack. Together with the candles and witchcraft array set up in the inner layer, a more complete barrier was set up. Han Dong, who had some free time, conducted a thorough inspection of the building. After all, the small town was also included in the manor's area. In the introduction of the knights, it did not mention that this miniature town was a safe zone. There might be danger inside, and all risks had to be eliminated before living there. Of course, there might also be clues that could help investigate the truth of the manor. Han Dong let the little magic eye operate in secret. When he searched the basement attached to this room, he noticed something unusual. Following Han Dong's shout, everyone gathered. Dong, dong, dong. Han Dong stretched out his hand and knocked on the eastern wall. This kind of hollow sound meant that this was a hollow wall. There was no need for blacksmith Wenli to do it. Han Dong activated some of the characteristics of his right arm and used his sharp claws and strength to easily destroy this hollow wall. The situation inside the wall stunned everyone present. A large number of rotting corpses were embedded in the walls. Moreover, the corpses were not only embedded in the wall that Han Dong had cut open. The walls around the basement were also filled with similar corpses. It was extremely strange. It felt as if the walls of the basement were built with corpses as the foundation. However, Han Dong was not looking for these corpses. There were other secrets hidden in the wall that Han Dong knocked open. Step back a little. There might be a leakage of corruption. Everyone retreated one by one. Han Dong forcefully pulled out several rotting corpses embedded in the wall. A small passage covered in vines that was only 2 meters tall and wide enough for one person to pass through appeared in front of everyone. Han Dong tried to peer into the depths of the small hole. He could faintly feel that something was looking at him from the depths. Danger! Wenli, Mia, come and help. Put the corpses back in. Han Dong immediately placed the corpses that he had just pulled out back in their original positions. Mia used her spider silk to secure them in place. Finally, Wenli used a piece of metal to seal up the wall again. Student Nicholas, do you feel danger? Yes, there's something in the depths of the cave. Furthermore, the direction of the cave just so happens to be towards the ancient castle on the hill. There might be some connection between the two. Who knows? We might even touch upon the middle-level or high-level secrets of the large manor. As of now, we haven't even touched upon the most basic of missions. I believe that it would be better to seal this place up for the time being. I suspect that these corpses sealed within the walls are a natural seal. The family that used to live here might have used this method to sever some special connection with the great Lord of Stuart. Before we have any basic information about the manor, or before we receive any missions related to this place, it would be best for everyone not to come into contact with it. Yes, let's go to the surface. Captain Abel, who was standing rather far away, had used his unique beast senses to sense a certain amount of danger when he tried to peer into the cave. It's a little scary. We're actually living in a place like this. Blacksmith Wenli had goosebumps when she thought of the corpses piled up within the walls of the basement. After all, they would be living in this house for the next week. However, Wenli glanced at the captain and vice captain. Both of them appeared to be very reliable. As long as everyone could sleep together, she would feel at ease. Once a residence was occupied and a barrier was set up, according to the rules of the Night Order, other small teams were not allowed to snatch it from them. Basically, all of the small teams had already settled down, other than the night teams that were rushing back and forth on the streets, trying to receive various missions. There were also some night watchers who wore black cloaks and carried kerosene lamps as they patrolled the streets and alleys. Abel, what kind of position do these night watchers who are patrolling the manor have? They patrol for safety and provide special missions. When we trigger an important point, the night watchers will find us. Of course, their main duty is to protect our safety and prevent big things from sneaking into the town at night and causing harm to us. Yes, follow me. Although everyone's treatment is the same, I know the NPCs here. However, I know all the knights who are NPCs here. They won't make things difficult for us when we accept some basic quests. In the early stages, we can appropriately speed up the progress. Abel used his unique sense of smell to find a fixed target. Unlike the other small teams who were receiving missions in the town, Abel did not stop along the way and came to the wheat field at the border of the town. During this time, Han Dong, who was wearing a bird's mask, secretly observed everything around him. The conversation between the students and the knights, the structure of each building, the composition of the streets, and all the details that could be collected were stored in his brain. In the dilapidated field of dried straw, other than the scarecrow, there was also a small and shabby wooden house. As the group approached, only a creak was heard. A woman wrapped in rags and holding a black candle with a huge aquiline nose suddenly poked her head out and stared at Captain Abel with her eagle-like eyes. Aunt Bardo, do you have any good missions for us here? Abel, you brat. Your grandfather said that I can't give you special treatment. Hurry back to the city and find others. My missions here are more difficult. You better not touch them. Then I won't look for Aunt Bardo to practice eagle language in the future. Brat, you dare to threaten me? Come in. I can give you missions, but you have to bear the corresponding huge risks. Chapter 192. Bardo Verratti, Behemoth Knights, Deputy Commander of the Raptor Guards. At present, she looked like an old woman who stayed in the wheat field, but in fact, she wasn't like this. Her stooped appearance and aged appearance were all changed through disguise. In order to fit the image of an NPC, she created a perfect strange town. She was actually only in her 30s. I have a total of 3 basic missions here. So far, no team has been here, so you can choose any mission. Considering that you are all freshmen, I suggest you choose the one with the lowest difficulty. Aunt Bardo, show us the 3 mission lists. Bardo had a serious face and kept warning. Abel, don't be overconfident. This time, Lord Keeman chose the camp. In fact, Lord Keeman took a certain risk to obtain the approval of the council. Auntie needs to tell you privately about an uncertain factor in the camp. Don't spread this information out. Huh? Thank you, Aunt Bardo. We will keep it a secret. Abel naturally wouldn't let go of an important piece of information in advance. The reason why he found Bardo immediately by following the smell was because this teacher was easy to talk to. Due to the special physique of 100 beasts, Commander Keeman arranged more than 20 one-on-one teachers for Abel. As long as it was during the usual class time, Abel would learn the knowledge of different beasts under different teachers for 18 hours a day. Through a special sleeping method, the main body could immediately enter the deep sleep layer. 4 hours of sleep was enough for the main body to recover. Moreover, once he had free time, Abel would secretly follow the behemoth knights out of the city and do some things that should be done at the night level in advance. This kind of high-intensity teaching was okay for Abel. He even wanted to invest more time to constantly improve his knowledge in all aspects. A genius wasn't scary. A genius who worked harder than you was truly scary. Bardo was one of Abel's teachers. In private, she doted on Abel. It's not just us. Some time ago, the Black Rose Knights had investigated this area and also found traces of hybrid demons in the manor. The fact that it had been discovered twice meant that the hybrid demons weren't passing by this place by chance. It is very likely that this hybrid demon will return here after a period of time. It might even be hiding in a secret area that we have yet to discover. There were many different types of hybrid demons, and even the records in the hybrid demon scripture were not complete. It was very likely that this was a hybrid demon with a unique concealment ability. This is also the only area where our behemoth knights didn't handle properly when dealing with the Stewart Manor. Although the hybrid demons are only a possibility and we have increased the number of night watchers, the risk is still there. Even if they were third-year elite students, once they encountered a hybrid demon head-on, they wouldn't be able to survive. If their abilities reached a certain level, they might be able to fight back in the combat level if they work together. However, they would definitely not be able to resist the contamination that could reach their souls. Not to mention you newbies. Therefore, try your best to complete the missions that are on the surface and don't delve too deep into it. Safety first. Hybrid demon. Abel, who wanted to prove himself in this training, revealed a pained expression. Not only Abel, but Demps also frowned. The atmosphere in the team became gloomy. Indeed, the level of a hybrid demon was not something that a group of novice knights could come into contact with. Only Handon's expression did not change. He was very concerned about what Teacher Bardo had said. Third-year elites can barely fight head-on, but they can't resist the contamination. This means that if they can resist the contamination, it is possible to fight head-on. There shouldn't be a problem with this understanding. The fallen baker that I met in the underground cave should have used a large-scale sacrifice to allow an origin hybrid demon from outside the city to descend onto the baker family head's body. It was supported by the Audiobook. Because Sister Wina was there, she attracted a lot of the hybrid demon's attention, and I was able to succeed in my sneak attack. Try your best to avoid encountering the hybrid demon. Of course, if you accidentally encounter one, you might not necessarily die. We will be careful. Let's take a look at the 3 missions in Aunt Bardo's hands. The 3 mission scrolls made of parchment were unfolded one after another. 1. Case Investigation. The chaotic scarecrow description. Located in the wheat field northwest of the Stewart Manor. Looking from a residential area, you will see a human-shaped shadow slowly moving under the night sky. Every day, the position of the scarecrow in the wheat field will change. Requirements. Investigate the root cause of the scarecrow incident and eliminate the culprit. Difficulty. Reward. Information on the wheat field area, plus 2 team points. 2. Case Investigation. The strange apple tree description. The lady living in the wheat field needs you to find an apple tree in the Stewart Manor. The apple tree will appear at a fixed time, and its location is uncertain. Requirements. Pluck an apple from the apple tree and give it to the lady in the wheat field. Difficulty. Reward. Information on the wheat field area, plus 14 points. 3. Case investigation. The hair in the well description. A stone well located in the northwest region of the Stewart Manor. Every time the water is fetched from below, there will be a large amount of hair floating in the bucket. Even if the well water is boiled for consumption, it will still affect the drinker. Therefore, the servants of the manor had no choice but to seal the stone well and not use it anymore. Requirements. Find out the secret in the depths of the stone well and cut off the source of the hair. Difficulty. Reward. Information on the small town area, information on the wheat field area, plus 17 points. The difficulty is indeed on the high side. Most of the basic missions are 1-star difficulty. Teacher Bardo, the highest difficulty of your mission is actually 3 stars. That's right. That's why I told you to be careful. Choosing the Scarecrow with a 2-star difficulty is the best. As for the Stonewell mission, I don't recommend you to take it. Abel looked at Han Dong. Nicholas, you are the chief of staff appointed by Captain Keeman. What do you think? The Stonewell mission will be of help to us, but what? Is the difficulty too high? No. Han Dong looked at Madame Bardo and asked, can we choose all 3 missions? Bardo stared blankly for a moment, then immediately refused. No, a team can only take 1 mission at a time. Then we'll choose the Stonewell mission first. If no one takes the follow-up mission, we'll come find you. Han Dong was resolute in his decision to take the Stonewell mission, as if he had seen something ahead of time. Chapter 193. She saw the determination in Han Dong's eyes when he made this decision. Captain Abel communicated with the mission receiver through the special Eagle language : Aunt Bardo. This vice captain was personally appointed by grandfather. He is a student of the Crow Prophet. I hope you can let us take this Stonewell mission. At the same time, help us reserve the other 2 easier basic missions. Unique Eagle language, plus the title of Crow Prophet. The lady was moved. The 3-star mission was considered the most difficult of the series of basic missions in the camp. It was indeed inappropriate to let the newcomer team handle it. But Crow Prophet, did this lord really accept students? Eagle language. Bardo stared at the young man in the crow costume and the team with a shocked expression. Captain Kinney is secretly protecting you, right? Bardo confirmed again. Yes. Abel, you must be careful. This well had some minor problems when we, the knights, dealt with it. Before you go down, please be sure to make proper preparations. Try to use external means to determine the danger below before exploring further. Don't be in a hurry. I will reserve the other 2 missions for you. Thank you, Aunt Bardo. Just like that, Han Dong and the others held the mission scroll, hair in the well, and headed to the destination. The so-called sealed stone well was roughly located at the junction of the wheat field and the town. It was located in the center of the open space formed by 3 buildings at the intersection of the town. Due to the strange problem of the stone well, the alley between the 3 buildings was also blocked by people. The wooden barricades needed to be cleared before they could pass. This is the stone well? It was not much different from the stone well in his impression. The circular well mouth was piled with stones. The wooden lifting device to pump water. However, the well mouth was currently sealed by a large number of wooden boards of different sizes fixed with iron nails. There were many wooden boards used, and the bottom wooden board and the surface wooden board were not old or new. It was obvious that the well had been sealed many times. The strangest thing was, using the bright light to observe carefully, Han Dong could see some black hair between the gaps of the wooden boards. Together with a group of people holding kerosene lamps in their hands, they stared at a sealed stone well at night. As time passed, a strange feeling gradually spread in the air. Blacksmith Winley was very timid. She was so scared that she squeezed into the crowd. She purposely leaned between the captain and vice captain, seeking the greatest sense of security. However, when Winley leaned towards Han Dong, she had a vague feeling that there was something strange about the vice captain. Under the bird mask, Han Dong's gaze seemed to be a little perplexed. The view changed. Han Dong himself. He stared intently at the stone well and observed the strange black hair between the gaps of the wooden boards. Crack, crack, the sound of wood breaking could be heard. A large number of cracks appeared on the bottom of the wooden block blocking the stone well, and it was cracking apart layer by layer at an extremely fast speed. Crack. When all the wooden blocks were broken and the stone well was reconnected to the outside world, it seemed that something was about to crawl out of the well. What could it be? Black hair? A drowning woman? A ghost in the well? Or was it some kind of terrifying aquatic plant? Neither of them. What floated out of the well was a red balloon. A balloon with a smiley face painted on it slowly floated up. As the balloon emerged, a familiar person with white gloves, red hair, and wearing a clown costume was pulled out. "Ha ha, Mr. Nicholas. It's a little dangerous down there. Don't die before you reach Old Draytown. Otherwise, I'll have one less interesting toy. Be careful. Call your teammates and go down together." Vice Captain, are you okay? Buzz. A thought flashed through his mind. The strange image in front of Han Dong disappeared. The stone well in the middle of the open space was still sealed, and the wooden boards showed no signs of damage. However, Han Dong was a little uncomfortable. He bent his body slightly and reached out to press on the bird mask. "My body's old illness is acting up. I need to rest for a while. You guys stay here and investigate the situation around the stone well. I'll be fine after some time alone." "Student Nicholas, are you sure you're okay?" Abel asked. "Yes, it's a small problem. Give me a moment." Han Dong held the mask in one hand and supported himself against the wall with the other. He left the stone well area temporarily through the alleyway. Mia tried to follow him quietly, but Han Dong suddenly turned around and gave her a scary look. She was scared back. Han Dong found a quiet and deserted area. Whoosh. Portable prison. It seemed easier to use the head's ability outside the city. There were no obstacles in the process of space storage and teleportation. Han Dong immediately rushed back to the sterile laboratory and checked the clown arm placed on the examination table. The series of illusions just now was very real. Han Dong first suspected the arm. However, the arm that was firmly fixed by the examination table showed no signs of moving. It was still tied to the table. After the examination, the arm did not have a consciousness of its own and could not affect Han Dong. Pennywise is indeed a difficult guy to deal with, but it's not to the extent that I'm traumatized. I'll ask Togu. They're archenemies, so they should know something. This matter needs to be investigated thoroughly. If something similar happens during critical periods, I'll be in danger. Prison District, second prison cell. Togu Gonzalez sat against the wall, holding a Bible in his hand. Just like that, he kept reading back and forth. Han Dong briefly explained his experience to Togu. Togu spoke in a demonic language that could be understood through their master-servant relationship. Pennywise, he's the guy in this circus who knows how to play with people's hearts the best. His greatest strength isn't his magic tricks, nor is it his strange combat abilities. Instead, it's his ability to see through the weaknesses of human nature and psyche, eliminating them from the depths of his heart. I'm also affected by this sometimes. So when the exit opened a crack, I rushed there immediately. I went to the place where he was hiding at all costs and prepared to kill him completely. You're also affected by this? Is there any way to contain it? The best way is to kill this clown. This way, the influence he placed in your psyche will all dissipate. However, we don't have the means or ability to head to inside now. Is there any special way to temporarily resist this influence? Other than killing the clown, there's no other way. However, from what you've described, the influence won't be too great. Also, please take note of the clown's warning to you. From what I see, Pennywise still wants you to go back and have a showdown. He doesn't want your corpse to be exposed in the wilderness. Can't you remind me from the inside? Just now, Miss Chun-Li and I didn't notice your abnormality at all. Is that so? Pennywise, you're really something. After Han Dong learned that this was the clown's trick, he returned to the town. He regrouped with the team members who were investigating near the stone well. Chapter 194. Are you okay? Just as Han Dong returned to the alley, a spider shadow fell from the sky. When the spider shadow landed, it immediately transformed into Mia, who had a slim figure and was wearing a half mask. It's nothing. It's just a side effect of the Destiny realm. How's your inspection? Did you find anything around the stone well? There's a lot of hair. What do you mean? You'll know when you come over. Mia tried to hold Han Dong's hand, but she recalled some of the harsh words Han Dong said in the carriage, so she withdrew her hand. When they stepped out of the alley, the team had already turned the empty space upside down and removed a layer of soil. In the lower layer of soil, there was a large amount of black hair. It was rooted in the soil like a seedling and would grow out of the ground after a while. It wasn't just the water in the well that was affected by the hair. Even the area around the stone well was affected. It meant that the situation was more serious than described in the mission. Blacksmith Winley stared at the large amount of strange black hair rooted in the soil like a seedling. She was so scared that she had to stay with her teammates and not let her shoes touch the black hair no matter what. At this moment, Dempus, who was squatting in the corner, used a unique magic method to perfectly extract a strand of black hair that was about half a meter long from the soil and spread it flat on a piece of white paper that he carried with him. He used a magic array to analyze the black hair. As the small array on the white paper was activated, strands of filthy aura were extracted from the hair. Then, the strand of hair disintegrated. What's hidden in the well should be a kind of middle-level or even high-level filth. Abel frowned. Mid-level or high-level filth. Moreover, we need to go to the enemy's nest, so it's indeed worthy of a 3-star difficulty. Moreover, this kind of evil filth that is formed from hair should be a rare species, right? Demps pushed up his copper-rimmed glasses and nodded. It's very rare. This kind of filth is mostly made of white bones. Hair is extremely rare, and it might be related to other things. Before we know the situation in the well, recklessly going down might cause contamination. Abel turned around and looked at Han Dong and Mia, who had just returned. Miss Mia, please make a sufficient amount of spirit-cleansing elixir. Next, the team may use it in large quantities. Then, Abel looked at Han Dong. Nicholas, how are you feeling? I'm fine. That's good. Excuse me, there are some things I don't understand. Why do we have to start this difficult basic mission first? You should be able to see my relationship with Annie Bardo, and I can make her reserve all the missions for us. For safety's sake, let's take on the Scarecrow mission with the lowest difficulty first. We'll get used to it and warm up first. Then, we'll take on the more difficult mission. Isn't that better? From Abel's question, it could be seen that he had some doubts about Han Dong's decision. Ahem. Han Dong cleared his throat and began to explain his choice. This is because I believe that there is a high possibility that the stone well is connected to the basement of our residence. I even speculate that in the entire Stewart Manor, other than the wheat fields, towns, hills, and ancient castles on the surface, there's also a mature and complete underground system. The ultimate goal of this training is to decipher the truth of the manor. If we only wander around the surface, it will be very difficult to reach the core, since our residence is connected to the strange corpse basement. Our exploration of the manor should also be biased towards the underground area. If we can gradually go deeper and reach the core of the underground area, we will be able to quickly unearth the secrets of the manor. Since this mission was decided by me, I will act as the scout and head down the well first to carry out the preliminary exploration. After confirming that there is no danger and that the contamination is within a controllable range, you can all come down one by one. Abel immediately asked, "Isn't it inappropriate for you to go alone? When I introduced myself earlier, I didn't mention my contamination tolerance. I should have a higher rationality value than all of you. Don't worry, I won't joke around with my life. Everyone could just wait for my news up there." Just as Han Dong made his decision, Mia immediately strongly requested, "I will go with you. What if the space below the stone well can block signals and we can't send out any information? I will tie a tenacious origin spider silk outside. If there is any danger, both of us can rely on the spider silk to quickly return to the outside of the well." Abel felt that this suggestion was pretty good. Not bad. It's better to be safe. Let Mia follow you down. Okay. Han Dong didn't reject Mia this time. The reason was because of the illusion from before. The clown's warning to a certain extent affected Han Dong's decision. Even if he was immune to contamination, there might still be dangerous situations that he couldn't handle. With the help of Mia, who was also a traitor, the danger would be greatly reduced. That's great. Mia opened her eyes wide and smiled as she leaned towards Han Dong. What do we leave? Now. Asterisk crack. Asterisk everyone worked together to pry open the wooden planks of the well. The lower the planks, the more rotten they were, and the denser the black hair became. Asterisk crack. Asterisk when the last plank was pried open, it fell directly into the well. However, there was no sound of it falling into the water. It was as if something had swallowed it. The danger level was self-evident. Let's throw a small kerosene lamp down there. Winley handed the backup kerosene lamp from her backpack to the captain. Under everyone's gaze, the kerosene lamp fell into the well. The damp wall covered in black hair was first reflected. It fell to a depth of about 7 meters. Just as it was about to fall into the water, asterisk whoosh. Asterisk a black shadow flashed past, and the kerosene lamp disappeared. What the hell was that? The speed was too fast, and the illumination range was limited. Almost everyone in the squad couldn't see it clearly. However, Han Dong's little magic, I caught some information. We can't get any more information from standing here. Prepare to enter the well. Asterisk kiss. Asterisk Mia spat out a strand of spider silk that was as thick as a finger. It was grabbed by Wen Li, the blacksmith with the greatest strength in the squad. With Wen Li's strength, she could easily pull the two of them back. The other end of the spider silk fell into the deep well. They only needed to crawl down along the spider silk. Be careful. If you can't make a sound, pull on the silk with force. Abel reminded them. Okay, don't worry. Han Dong was the first to grab the soft spider silk that had a high friction force and slowly slid down. When his body was below the well, he felt a damp sensation all over his body. The black hair on the surrounding stone walls wriggled slightly. It seemed to have some thoughts about Han Dong, the intruder. Eye-opening. His little magic I was fully opened. For a moment, the black hair that covered the stone walls retreated into the well like a tide. Asterisk hee. Asterisk the laughter of a woman from the bottom of the well also faded away. Han Dong's speculation was correct. There's a relatively spacious underground space in the well. The first investigation mission had officially begun. Chapter 195. The kerosene lamp hanging on Han Dong's waist gradually illuminated the bottom of the well. The bottom of the well was facing the clear underground pool. Through the water layer, a large amount of black hair could be seen growing at the bottom, and some broken hair was also floating in the pool. There was also an open space below that could be reached by pulling. With the G1 virus body, it was no problem to complete such a movement. As long as the right arm firmly grasped the spider silk and used the strength of the waist and abdomen to shake the spider silk, the pulling could be completed. Thud! He landed steadily. Mia's flexible body also landed. Using the light of the fire, she could not help but sigh. Mia exclaimed, "Wow, it's so big down there." Language, pay attention to your words. Hee hee, so you also know how to joke. You were so mean when you were driving. Speaking of this, Mia suddenly remembered something and took out a detector with a scale from her waist. This was given to me by Wen Li. She said it can directly detect the concentration of pollution. However, I don't know what the specific number means. I will report the number to them later. The detector was clearly marked with a scale from 1 to 100. Starting from the value of 5, the background color began to deepen. After the value reached 30, the background turned completely black. The current value of the bottom of the well was 3.7, which seemed to be within the safe range. Mia stared at the open eye on Han Dong's forehead. The things underground must have been scared away by your eye. Should I call them down? Wait a minute, there may be a trap. Han Dong needed to eliminate all the dangers. After all, it was he who proposed to explore the bottom of the well. He walked around the empty space at the bottom of the well. He confirmed that the underground cave was a circular structure. The middle was a circular underground pool, surrounded by a shallow layer that could be walked on. After a simple inspection, he did not find any hidden stone walls or secret passages that led to the underground area. "Mia, wait for me here." "Huh? Where are you going?" "Under the water." There was not much hesitation. Han Dong held the detector with one hand and jumped into the underground pool. The bird-beaked doctor outfit automatically changed. The original long robe immediately turned into a black skin-tight suit suitable for swimming. The mask also provided a small amount of oxygen, allowing Han Dong to move underwater for about 10 minutes. Due to the activation of the little magic eye, the hair floating in the water dispersed on its own, not daring to approach Han Dong. Sure enough, my guess was right. Finally, at the bottom of the underground pool, they found a secret passageway that connected to another underground area. Judging from the growth density of the black hair, the direction of the fluttering, and the rising pollution index, this secret passage at the bottom of the pond should lead to the lair of the black-haired filth. The pollution index at the entrance is 9. 7. It must be even higher inside. Just as Han Dong was staring at the passage at the bottom of the pool that was filled with black hair, a strange red balloon slowly floated out from within. "Ha!" The balloon exploded midway. Han Dong shook his head violently and gave up the idea of exploring alone. At the mouth of the well, Han Dong and Mia returned to the stone well. "Prepare a diving suit that can cover the whole body. We still have to go deeper into the water below." The index on the detector shows that the pollution index at the entrance of the underwater cave is as high as 9. 7. It's estimated that it's higher inside. I suggest that when Lee and another person with weaker resistance or not suitable for underwater activities stay at the mouth of the well to ensure that the mouth of the well is not blocked by external forces. At the same time, you have to hold on to the spider silk that's wrapped around us firmly and ensure that we can leave the stone well through the spider's silk at any time. Captain Abel suggested, "Devoust, why don't you stay? You're not suitable for diving. At the same time, you have to preserve some of your physical strength. If we encounter something big later, you'll need to face it head on." "Okay, Miss Wen Lee, can you enchant equipment with magic? It increases pollution resistance." "Yes. Everyone, give me all the diving equipment you're wearing. I need half an hour." Half an hour passed. The team members were tied with the tough spider silk spat out by Mia. Wenli held on to them. Dimps the magician wrapped his body with a special magic shield that could not only isolate the water, but also resist pollution. The moment Abel entered the water, a protective structure similar to a turtle's shell grew on his knees, back, elbows, and the back of his hands. The white gas surrounding his body would sometimes transform into the image of a turtle. Spirit turtle protection, increase defense, increase all resistance, ability to use the joint block skill. As for Mia, she put away her witch's coat and turned it into a swimsuit that could accentuate her figure. Staring at the dense black hair in the underwater passage, even Abel was stunned and quickly stopped swimming. If the black hair wrapped around them, it would be difficult to resist the contact pollution. Han Dong, who was the leader, was not afraid and continued to swim into the underwater passage. How'd he do it? As Han Dong swam into the passage, the black hair in the passage had a feeling of automatically retreating, and all of them retreated back to the wall, as if they were afraid of this young man. Shocked, Abel quickly swam to catch up with him. The length of the underwater passage was about 20 meters. Due to Han Dong's presence, the black hair here did not dare to cause trouble. After smoothly passing through the underwater passage, they arrived at a similar pool. Only, the scene at the bottom of the water caused the team members to be stunned. Where did all these corpses come from? Didn't the Stewart Manor have a relatively large graveyard in the open space between the small town and the hill? Why are there so many corpses in the underground area? Is the basement of the residence we chose also like this? Could it be that this manor already had problems before the arrival of the Dark Age? Han Dong carefully observed the corpses at the bottom of the water. Perhaps due to the special nature of the water, the corpses did not completely decompose. Especially the head, which was perfectly preserved. The pores on the head were enlarged, and there seemed to be small black dots inside, similar to sesame seeds. These abnormal points were discovered by Han Dong. These are culture media? Han Dong finally found the source of the black hair at the bottom of the well. Someone was planting black hair. These corpses at the bottom of the water were excellent culture media for black hair. In addition, there was something different from the cave at the bottom of the well. This pool appeared to be very clean. Other than the large amount of corpses at the bottom, there was no black hair floating in the water. Following Han Dong's instructions, everyone floated to the surface. Due to having stayed underwater for a period of time, other than Han Dong, the other three had some faint traces of contamination near their eye sockets. Captain Abel became excited. This is Nicholas, you guessed correctly. The manor really does have a complete underground system. Above the pool, it was no longer a cave at the bottom of the well, but a man-made underground place. Other than the regular stone walls, torches, decorations, and even some slightly noble paintings were hung on the walls. Han Dong and the others were in the water area, which was a relatively large pond within the house, a pond used to plant hair. Other than this, there was also a master standing at the entrance. A white candle was held in his hand, while his black hair covered his face and hung down to the ground. An intense feeling of danger engulfed the small team. However, this black-haired master did not seem to have any intention of attacking. Seeing the four of them float to the surface, he immediately turned around. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The sound of black hair rubbing against the stone floor. Using the wiggling of his black hair to assist in his movement, he seemed to want to lead Han Dong and the others to a certain area. His movement speed was extremely fast, not giving Han Dong and the others the opportunity to attack. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.